We have been playing?
We stopped playing. We're gonna play. Something happened. We couldn't, and then they closed. They closed last Friday.
Do you like basketball?
One of the guys I work with, he's a member there, so we have a recurring tea time at like 6:15 on Saturday morning. So
We don't have.
It's been getting late.
To me, it's.
yeah, like one of the last times we were going there, it was literally
Yeah. Yeah.
like I was pulling into the parking lot. It was still blackout. I'm like,
No.
how are we gonna play?
Oddfellows, but even Oddfellows.
I think the last time I played was Shaker Hill.
I guess we're gonna find out.
I've played there forever.
That's the lake course.
She's a liaison.
It's only $80
She also lives on it.
with a card.
Yeah.
That was close to 100.
So?
Weekends.
Oh, weekend.
Some of us have to. Monday through Friday.
Well, it's now 7 PM. We will call tonight's conservation meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, the first order of business is I would like to officially welcome our new conservation agent. He just joined us. Tonight's Mr. David Kuhn's first meeting with us in the Concom, and we're really glad to have him. I think we went almost 3 or 4 months without an agent, and so it's really great to have you here and you as our agent. So welcome, David.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be here.
Great. The first item on the agenda is the open session citizen concern. So if we have something that's not on tonight's agenda, and we actually have a lot on tonight's agenda, but if there's an item that's not on here that someone would like to speak to, if you could just raise your hand, we'll recognize you. We need your name, your address, and we'd like you, when anyone speaks, to just come up to the microphone here because this meeting is being recorded and televised this evening, so you would come up here. Sir?
Do you have any agendas?
The agendas. Do we have any agendas, Mr. Coons?
I'm sorry, I did not print out any agenda.
I have an extra one. I have an extra one.
Do you have an extra one?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Sir, we got one right there for you. Our apologies.
I will definitely correct that.
And on the door, there'll be a pocket. You can just stick them in the pocket, so people can grab them.
It's pretty unusual.
Yeah. Anyone else with questions or concerns this evening they'd like to state? Okay, yes, sir, you got some seats up front here. Yep.
Scott.
It's a good crowd this evening. Very good. So the first item we have on tonight's agenda is under regulatory hearings, is a request for determination of applicability related to James and Marjorie Traeger, 203 Concord Road. And we have a legal notice. Do we have a legal notice for that?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair. Under the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public meeting at the town offices, 50 Billerica Road, Chelmsford, on Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, at 7 p.m. for a request for determination of applicability filed by James and Marcy Traeger. The applicant wishes to construct a 28 by 12-foot addition and a 12 by 16-foot deck on the side of an existing dwelling and locate a new shed at 203 Concord Road. Work will take place within 100 feet of a wetland, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cork. And do we have a representative of the applicant here this evening? Oh, in the back, yes. Come forward, please.
Do we have any plans?
I'm passing those around. That's what was submitted.
Thank you.
And just as a note, if I remember right, David, that the legal posting had the wrong
Well, I think what you
address.
just read is correct.
Yes.
But I don't know where that came from. The version I saw was
No,
incorrect.
the online was 23. I
Oh,
just
okay.
read it correctly.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, yes, what was posted, it was online, was incorrect.
Okay, sir, your name, please, for the record, and address?
James Traeger, 203 Concord Road.
Very good. If you could just tell us a little bit about what you want to do out there. Give us an overview.
We have as it was said, it was read, we have an existing home, and we'd like to add the addition and the deck to the back of the house.
Okay, all right, good. Let's see if the commissioners have any questions for you.
Sure.
We'll, although our agent, do you have anything preliminary you'd like to say? or-
Sure, I could start out if
Yeah,
you want.
sure.
I met on site with the applicant's contractor this afternoon, Mr. Savard. I would say the closest point of approach to the wetlands with the project is 25, 30 feet, something like that. I didn't actually measure it because it was quite thick, the vegetation between the project and the wetlands. Very, very simple and straightforward. It's an addition and deck on supports. The supports are actually big feet. I think the two main concerns that I discussed with Mr. Savard was some kind of erosion control, prior to be installed prior to the start of work, because big feet do require, certain amount of excavation. So did discuss with him, and he had no problems with installing 12-inch diameter wattles prior to the start of work. And then just the other main concern I discussed with him was management of the roof runoff for both the addition and the shed. Talked about a couple of options. It sounds like the simplest one, which certainly I would have no problem with, is install a crushed stone filled trench underneath the roof drip line. I think that's pretty simple, and I think is sufficient to address the purpose, the concern for which it's intended to address.
All right, thanks, David. Let's see if the commissioners have any questions. Dave?
You said that the closest spot to the edge of wetlands is roughly 30 feet.
Yes, that would be my estimate.
How old is your house, sir? You know?
Probably built 68, 9-ish, around there.
Are you gonna require any fill around the addition, or are you gonna take any fill off-site, or are you gonna
No.
use,
Everything is,
because you're not gonna have big excavations?
No, no.
You're just gonna use whatever you dig up
ab-
on-site?
absolutely, yep.
Okay. And where are you gonna park the vehicles with the construction material? On the left there of the driveway, or? You gotta sp-
It can go on the left. We have enough room in, the driveway is fairly large, so.
So you use the driveway then?
Yep.
So it'll be in the front of the
Yeah,
house?
should
Okay.
not be a
That's all
problem.
I had, Chris.
All right. Hey, thanks, Dave. Chris, anything?
I don't have anything.
Good. Bill?
I'm good.
Mark?
Dave, did you say the foundation is sonotubes, tubes, or is it a full foundation, or?
Not a foundation, it's big feet.
So it's
Which,
on tubes, there's no, okay.
yes, yeah.
Is it gonna be machine work or handwork, digging holes out?
That I'm not sure. Our contractor couldn't make it tonight, so
Okay,
I think he said it was gonna be a machine,
okay,
not a huge excavator, but
Right.
a small machine.
yeah. That's all.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Carl?
I don't see any tree removals or anything like that going on here.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Carl. Actually, yes, there is one tree that will need to be removed. I would say it's maybe an 18, 20-inch Norway maple.
Oh.
That's about 30 feet in back of the house.
That's not so bad.
That's going to have to go, but I mean, it's a Norway maple, so.
That's actually a plus,
Yeah, I agree.
to remove that. Okay. That's all I got.
All right. Thanks, Carl. John?
No, I'm good with it.
Okay. Good. All right. Any further questions?
We kind of encourage if you take a tree down and plant one, we kind of encourage that.
we could certainly do that.
With a native,
But not the same species, please.
Right.
not
Yeah,
the
no, I
Norway.
would
A
have,
red maple or silver maple.
I would have no problem taking that tree down.
And I mentioned that to your contractor as well,
Yes.
so he's aware.
All right. Good. Well, this is a public hearing, so if someone from the public has any questions or comments for the applicant, just raise your hand again, and we're glad to hear public input. All right, no public questions on this hearing. Any further comments? This was a request for determination of applicability. We have a motion.
So move.
Mr. McGlock with a motion for a negative determination. Number 3, do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Vines. Any discussion before we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, unanimous. You're all set,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll have to get that paperwork out. It'll take a few days, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next on tonight's agenda is a request for determination of applicability, Stop and Shop Supermarket Company, 20 Boston Road. We know that Jennifer Sweet from Haley and Aldridge is representing the applicant. Do we have legal notice for that, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair. Under the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public meeting at the town offices, 50 Billerica Road, Chelmsford, on Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, at 7 p.m. for a request for determination of applicability filed by Jeff Morgan, the Stop and Shop Supermarket Company. The applicant is proposing explorations to be conducted to collect soils and groundwater data in response to the Department of Environmental Protection at 20 Boston Road. Work will take place within 100 feet of a wetland. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Sir, if you could identify yourself for the record?
Yeah, I'm not Jennifer Sweet.
Yeah, you don't look like Jennifer.
I'm Stu Wiley, but I'm with Haley and Aldrich,
Okay.
representing Stop and Shop.
Good. So if you could just give us a little bit, the commission, a little bit of
Sure,
overview
sure, and I
of
think
what's going on.
David, the new agent, wanted a little bit of background. So we've been working for Stop and Shop for 15-plus years now, and there used to be a dry cleaner at 20 Boston Road, where the new CVS is. It was just south of there, Paramount Cleaners. So they had a release of dry cleaning solvents, and we've been doing investigations, remediation there for.
How many years ago was that?
It was early 2000s when DEP
So
first
20 years ago?
Yeah, first DEP discovered it, correct. And so we've been conducting investigations on the property, remediation on the property, and then also some investigations wells off in the neighborhood as well. So DEP recently conducted an audit, and they requested some additional delineation of the extent of where the contamination's migrated. So we're responding to essentially it's their request
All
to
right.
conduct additional investigations. And I have additional copies of the plans if anyone needs them.
Yeah, that's good. Let's
Yeah,
get
that'd
some
be
of those out.
Yeah. It's the same plan that was in the,
While you're doing that, is this in response to a specific set of circumstances that DEP has that they?
no, this is just a routine audit.
This is a follow-up from the original work?
Right. When you become a
Yeah.
site under the Mass DEP, the DEP has the right to audit at certain times, so we're conducting an
Will
audit.
this be the final one, or will they continue to do it?
We need to respond to what they've asked for now. This could be the final one, hopefully it is.
Have there been prior ones?
No, this is the first.
So there's no data that would suggest other than the original work, right?
There are probably 20, 30 status reports on file. I think the town actually receives copies of those. Board of Health or the mayor's office gets copies of, I think, all those filings.
And DEP has a website as well for.
Right, and they're all publicly available online, right?
Yeah, and I can forward that link to commission members if you're interested.
Okay, good. Good. David, do you have some additional comments?
This indicates, do you guys own the site where the liquor store is?
No,
Are you going to work on that site too? or-
Nope, we're hoping we're in the process now of negotiating access with, there are two parcels that we need to get access to. One is the Horizon, I think it's called Horizon, Holiday Assisted Living Facility.
Yeah.
And then the other is a small parcel to the north of Beaver Brook, which is owned by the town
The
of Chelmsford.
DEP's looking to you for all three sites?
We're defining the extent of the migration from the 20 Boston Road property.
Okay. Because this says, you're only going to have two potential sites on your property, correct?
Correct, we already have access to that. Stop and Shop no longer owns the 20 Boston Road, they sold it.
And why are there so many sites, potential sites indicated on the liquor store site? Is there just the history of it?
They're different types of samples, so some of those are just very shallow groundwater samples and surface water samples.
Based on the original spill, though?
Exactly, so we're trying to develop a hydrogeologic model to demonstrate where it's migrated, whether it's coming up into the surface water, whether it's staying down in the bedrock.
When you do the drilling, how far down do you go?
There are two different, actually there are 4 different media we're going to be sampling. So we'll be collecting surface water samples from Beaver Brook, shallow groundwater samples immediately adjacent to Beaver Brook, shallow groundwater samples. Now we're going to install there 2 shown in those plans, which are called cluster wells, which are multiple depth wells. And so one will be installed down in Bedrock, which on our...
There'll be a lot of surface water coming up while you're getting to the point where you want to take the sample?
There shouldn't be. The method we're using is sonic drilling, which doesn't involve water, and so unless it's artesian, we shouldn't be getting water up during the course of the drilling.
When would you expect to do this?
We've been trying to get access to the 2. We have access from the town already. From the town manager was nice enough to give us access to that small parcel, and then we have been reaching out to the Holiday Retirement Assisted Living Facility to try to get access to their parcel. And so far, we're getting dead ends. It's a big...
It's a national company.
Exactly. We're having trouble identifying who the right person is, but the attorneys for Stop and Shop have sent them an access request.
Keep abreast of the work that's being done at the Oddfellows Hall across Beaver Brook. They're demolishing and renovating that big white building in the center of Chelmsford. There may be debris coming off of that building that, although we'll prevent it, but there might be debris flowing in the stream. Depending on what kind of samples you're taking, you may be getting indicators in Beaver Brook from that building, so just be aware of it.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, Dave, thanks. Mr. Coons, do you have anything yet?
So I think this project does satisfy the requirement.
I know, sir.
I think that this project does satisfy the criteria for a negative determination, basically an exemption under the Act and the bylaw for filing notice of intent. The special condition that I would recommend is just prior to the start of any work, is that a detailed work sequence be submitted to the commission, specifying as precisely as possible, when the work is going to be done on site, where, exactly what is going to be done, and then, some kind of regular status reports, maybe weekly. I mean, I can discuss with Jennifer what would be appropriate in that case, but just basically to keep conservation closely informed of what's going on out there.
I mean, we're hoping to get access soon, because ideally we'd like to do the work in the wintertime, just because the vegetation on the trees and just getting through there. I haven't been on the property yet because we haven't had access and I didn't want to trespass, so we put a pretty detailed description of our approach in the submittal of how we do it in terms of trying to stay on the higher ground, not going into the real swampy part. We're not going to do that. But we won't know till we get out there. Mm-hmm. Exactly where we can put the wells.
No, I thought the work sequence, the work description was very good. Very, very detailed.
I'd like to say I wrote it, but.
Thank you, Mr. Agent. Dave, somebody else?
Who owns the property that the liquor store's on? Does Harrington still own it?
John owns that.
So he would need John's.
No, there's nothing on John's
There's nothing on
property.
Harrington's.
Okay. No,
Would he be easier to get access from?
sure there is. 1, 2, 3, 4.
right here.
The back pieces.
It's
That's
the back
Harrington.
pieces.
That's the
That's assisted living.
assisted living, Summer Street,
Correct.
yeah, the little building in the middle is the liquor
Holiday
store.
retirement.
Okay.
All right.
I didn't see any buildings on the first site. That's why I thought it was.
Okay.
We don't know anybody in Summer Place that we could help get in touch with these guys, do we?
I wish
I
you did.
don't think we do.
All right, thanks, Dave. Chris?
I'm good.
Good. Bill?
Will we be copied on all results?
Yeah, absolutely. All the DEP submittals go to the town as well, and plus on the website.
Okay.
And I'll put that in as a
And you
condition as
put
well.
a condition, we can certainly send them directly to you.
Okay, good. That's it.
All right. Mark?
The wells behind the assisted living, those look like they're gonna be in wetlands.
I mean, as mapped, some of the locations are in the wetlands.
What are you gonna need for equipment to get in there? You need put mats down or anything to get in there?
If needed, so I think that's in the submittal, but the plan is to use a small track-mounted rig and minimize disturbance, stay on the high ground out of the actual wetlands. I guess it's mapped as wetlands, but our plan, we're not gonna be driving into the the bog or the swampy areas around Beaver Brook. So if we
quite
need
sure.
mats, if we need plywood, if we need to, whatever we need to keep from, minimize the disturbance.
Okay.
I'm quite sure that's in the work description.
We'll know that as you go along.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
I'm all set.
Thanks, Mark. Carl?
No, I'm good. It's all for the right reasons, as long as it's being done right. This is great. Good to have it done.
Good. John?
I'm good, I just got one question. When you come out with the drilling equipment, obviously, you're gonna have some sort of wash-off area, not track the mud out.
Correct. Yep, correct. Our plan is to drum any material, that excess material that we generate, if it's soil or water, from the sampling activities and take it off-site and contain anywhere. We're not going to let any water we're using flow into the wetlands or Beaver Brook. We'll have to set up an area where they decontaminate equipment as it comes out. And
right.
we would move that back from the actual
Yeah,
Beaver
yeah.
Brook itself.
Okay, that's,
We wouldn't mind it if you got rid of some of the knotweed back there when you.
Tell
do
me
the
what it
work.
is and we'll take it down. If I can identify it in the wintertime without leaves on it, I mean, that's what we want to get in there now, but we've been trying for months, couple months to try to contact the holiday retirement. Call the people at the local place and I don't get calls back, so we'll see if the attorneys have better luck.
All right, any other commission questions? The public hearing? So if someone from the public has a question or comment, just raise your hand. All right, no public questions then. All right, well, this is filing for request for determination of applicability. Someone in the commission want to take some action?
This is a -3, right?
Yes, yep.
So move.
So, Mr. McLaughlin on a motion for negative determination number 3. Do you have a second on that?
You want to include the special condition in that?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. What was that special condition again, Mr. Coombs?
That's to, prior to the start of any work, detailed work sequence, including, I mean, I can come up with exactly, but, when the work is gonna start, and what's gonna be done, at the start of work, and then some kind of regular status reports. Again, I at this point, I'm thinking weekly, but I'll run that by Jim.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, the work itself should take, I think, 7 to 10 days on both sides of the brook. So that includes
All
the
of it?
small town parcel, yeah, hopefully, so.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe either daily, at least in the beginning, maybe daily, and then maybe,
Yep.
every.
Yeah, whatever you need. I mean, we can certainly put together a daily field report if necessary and shoot you a
that would
copy
be
of that.
great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
And you'd be more than welcome to stop out while we're out there. We'll find a nice 60-degree day in January, hopefully.
And you're gonna be copied on all the results, too.
Yes, yes.
So we've got the stipulation of the sequence information, as well as copied in all the results, and the regular daily reports, or as
Yeah,
requested
and-
by our agent.
And the determination will also specify the exemption, why the commission is not requiring a notice of intent as well.
Yeah, well, that's the -3 itself.
Okay. All right, so we had a motion on that. Did we need a second still? Mark on the second. Any further discussion? No discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None unanimous. All right, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you. And you send out the letter with the conditions that will be
Yeah.
forthcoming? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It may be a while before we get the formal access, but we want to get this piece out of the way, so. Thank you.
Yeah, just follow up with our agent if you had any questions.
Absolutely, yep. Thank you.
Good, well, thank you, sir. All right. Next, under regulatory hearings, we have a notice of intent filing, Town of Chelmsford, Department of Public Works, filing on behalf of the Conservation Commission with respect to 95 Boston Road. We have, I see Scott Ludwig is present today from our DPW, which is good. We do have a legal notice, though, that we need to get into the record, so let's take that
Yes.
legal notice.
Mr. Chair, under the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public meeting at the town offices of 50 Billerica Road, Chelmsford, on Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, at 7 p.m. for a notice of intent filed by the town of Chelmsford The applicant wishes to upgrade existing site access and parking area to the Warren Pole Conservation Area at 95 Boston Road. Work will take place within 100 feet of a wetland within a riverfront area. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, over to Mr. Ludwig.
Hi,
I
good
got
evening,
the plan.
everybody.
Yeah, let's
So,
get the plans up, yeah.
So I'm Scott. I actually was brought on from the Chelmsford Conservation Commission to create a parking area for the Warren Pole piece of property that the town had purchased. The idea for this is to, there's already an existing roadway that exists there. The roadway itself, you can drive in. There is a ample amount of parking that you can access the full property from. But the idea is to actually to create 15 parking spots in a designated area for parking. Also, while going into the parking for the egress to enter in, if someone was traveling out, if anyone's been on the property, there's a possibility that two cars could collide, or they're going to possibly collide. So on part of the plan that we have here is to actually create a turnout, which is really why we're going in front of the biggest part of this notice of intent. But it's really for safety is the whole part of this. And there is going to be some pruning of vegetation, some trees that are out there. There's 3 of them that I've noticed that are out there that need to be to address. And that's about it.
All right, well, thanks, Scott, for the overview. And now what we'll do is we'll follow the same format we've had for the previous hearings. We'll see if the commissioners have any questions and comments, and then we'll go to the public and see if the public has any questions as well, too. So let's maybe start first with Mr. McLaughlin. Would you like to go first?
I worked on the project, though. Why not, let me hear what the other
Yeah, okay.
commissioners have to say first.
All right, good. So let's move on down the line. Chris?
I'm good for now, Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. And Bill?
Yeah, Scott, can you explain how you're going to handle the, right at the Boston Road, at the entrance? It's kind of right on the curve there. What's your ideas for making that safe?
All right, so the entrance for Boston Road is not part of what I actually created on this plan, but I know that there was talk about the entryway. You're
Yeah.
talking about with the curbing and all of that, and the guardrail that's there. So that's something that we'd have to address
But
down
that's
the
not as
road.
part of
That's
this.
not on part of this
Okay.
project, though. That wasn't something, we've talked about that, but we haven't really come up with any kind of permanent idea of what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Because I know there's a whole other driveway also that accesses right there, too, for an adjacent home.
Right. You've already installed, the electrical's in,
Yes, it is.
under the road.
Yes,
Water, it's all, everything's all all set with
Correct.
that, right?
right. The electric's not connected yet.
No, but
Out
your
of the
pipes are
pole.
all,
But
the
right.
conduit's in.
Right, that is all in. The easement's been created, yes.
What do you propose for the driveway as far as, you gonna use road grindings or stone or? what's
No, the idea
plan?
was to keep it as a, since it's the idea is to keep it towards the historical agricultural design of the property. Because it's this really great old farm that's been there before Chelmsford was even, and
So,
it was, the
are
United
there-
States really there, so.
On that,
So the idea is just keep it as dirt.
so do you have to take all the organics off and get down to some gravel first, so you don't get muddy driveway?
Yeah, we'll have to go through there and probably grade it out. Well, obviously where the turnout's gonna be for the grading.
Right.
And then up near the handicap spots. But it's relatively flat.
Right.
So you can actually access in right now as is.
Right, we've been in
There's
there.
not much we have to do with the site itself, except just delineate where the parking spaces are so
And-
people
and
don't
widen that
drive
spot.
all over the property.
And you're putting riprap on the side of that hill?
Yeah, so down on the bottom of the hill, there is an existing stone wall.
Right.
So I wanted to add more riprap to that, and that's actually gonna act as the barrier, not to go beyond, to enter into the vegetated wetland. That's right, some of it goes right up to that wall.
It's right there, right?
Right, right.
Okay. And
I have no idea.
I guess that's it right now, Scott.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Mark?
Scott, on the road coming in on, I guess it would be the south corner, south edge of the road, is there gonna be anything there to keep people from going off the incline there? You gonna put any, like, boulders up there or something, or?
We do, so when I walked the site with David, we actually talked about that. There are multiple boulders out there on site.
Yeah.
And it probably would be something that we should do, is to place the boulders along the top. I know I don't have that on the plan, but we probably should place some boulders along the edge where I'm gonna loom and seed,
Right.
so no one
Right.
can actually drive off to that site.
Okay.
Good idea.
In the parking spots, I think the ones that are closest to the whole property are already kind of existing. The ones across the path, the new ones, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And do those handicap spots have to be on top or anything like that? It could just be on dirt?
Can just be on dirt, like the other conservation pieces that we have around town. We actually just try to level it out
Yeah, okay.
and make it wide enough so you have the van access.
And that's all gonna be kind of like a cart path area? The material's gonna be consistent throughout there too?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So what's out there is what I want to try to keep
Right,
existing.
right.
It's the same look.
right.
There is some debris out there we're gonna remove also,
Okay.
that was dumped on site, and that
Yeah, I
should be
see that
gone.
pile in the corner there. It's
Right.
remove that debris pile. That's all I have right now.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Carl,
Yeah, I'm going to pass as well.
for now? All right, John?
We had talked about using the hay bales where possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something, we have plenty of hay there
Right,
In the barn.
in the barn.
right.
So,
We could use that with
We
the
could-
wattles and some silt fencing,
yeah.
and also use the hay bales.
Use the hay bales
Because
where
we're
it's
gonna have to get
easier.
rid of them anyhow.
Yeah, we gotta get
Build
rid
a
of,
triple defense
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
there, right?
They're free.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, and we can use that.
yeah,
Yeah, good point.
but that's,
I guess we should kind of make that note that we're using while we're using it. It's an indigenous to the site.
that's
Yeah,
correct.
true.
It's not, you're bringing in from another part of the state.
We normally don't like to do that. but
Right.
It's already on the site, so.
Yeah. True. Good. David, as an agent, have comments you want to make at this point?
Just a couple. I think that Scott did a very good job of describing the project and the concerns. I think one of the main concerns that we discussed when at the site visit was that where the turnout area is located, I mean, that's coming so close to the wetlands, that's coming right up against to the edge of the wetlands, plus it's sloping down, fairly steeply down to the wetlands, is that when the work is being done in that area, that it really needs to be closely watched, closely supervised, to make sure that nothing goes over. There's actually an existing stone wall there. Make sure that nothing goes over the edge into the wetlands. Especially if we were to get a heavy rainstorm, that erosion control really needs to be, very strong there to prevent that. And I know we talked about maybe possibly doing a guardrail along that section, didn't we, Scott?
Right.
Because there's quite a long, steep drop off there that, just be on the safe side. So that might be something that should be considered in the future. I guess, as time goes on, I didn't ask him to show it on the plans. And then it was discussed earlier about the boulders, that there are some existing boulders out there in between the parking spaces that are closest to the wetland, and I guess that there are some additional boulders there that are going to be excavated as part of the cleanup, where it says existing debris pile. There are some boulders there that, again, I think should be added to the existing line of boulders, just to make it that much more difficult to go into the wetlands, closest to the parking spaces. So,
Thanks, David. Good. Any more commissioner questions before we go to the public at this point?
Let me make a few
Dave?
other comments. I think one of the things that, this is for the benefit of the audience too, this is a public hearing on a conservation matter. The contradiction perhaps in your mind is that it's a conservation project. So the project itself is greater than the conservation hearing. The hearing applies to any activity that's within the legal jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, which is within 100 feet of the wetlands. You heard an earlier question about the intersection out on Boston Road. Technically, that geography is outside of 100 feet. So technically, it's not part of conservation hearing. It is part of the project. And you'll see some of that, and that occurs in other places. For example, why this site? Well, that's not a conservation question, but it certainly is an important question. Those of you that are familiar with the Warren Pole property understand that there are very few sites that get you into the Warren Pole farm. We determined that this was the most appropriate one to get into the farm itself. The rest of them just didn't make any sense. We're also we're within 25-foot no disturbance. We've got a bylaw, so we're going to have to. This cutout is within 25 feet, so we'll have to, if the commission so agrees, we'll have to waive that 25-foot no disturbance. There are a couple of big trees. Is where the fence is, Scott? Are those big trees coming out? You know where that temporary fence, or not? Well, not
The
temporary.
gate?
The gate, rather. Are those big trees coming out?
So the large pine tree,
That's one of them. Yep.
the large one, we
And
can
the ones before just before you get to the gate.
yeah, so the large pine tree, I was gonna be in question, we actually should have an arborist take a look at that one.
Yeah.
You know, we can elevate it and maybe prune some of the deadwood out of it and just get them up so we don't have the equipment to get up in it, see if there's a cavity or any kind of chance of
Well,
splitting.
that's also true of some of the trees in the parking lot area as well, where
Right.
it might make sense just to go up
Yep, to
15,
elevate.
20 feet.
Right.
No, my concern on those trees, the first time I was talking, is that the visibility down that driveway to the cutout area has to be very clear.
Right,
If our experience on the other reservations is any indication, other than Russell Mill, which has a big parking lot that accommodates a lot of other activity, the parking lot at the Cranberry Bog is probably the largest other one, and that's got 10 spots, including 9 spots, including one handicap.
Right.
And that gets a lot of activity on the weekend. I don't believe that we're going to have more than what is required here. We certainly have room to expand parking away from the wetlands if need be. But I want to make sure that driveway that's in this area has as clear a line of sight as possible. It appears from the design that it will have that. I'd rather get. I'm a great tree hugger, but I'd rather get rid of some trees if it's going to hurt visibility.
right. And right now, even if you go out there, it
Is
looks
this-
clear, but we know that
Scott,
being out there in the
is
summer.
is the new driveway, or the remade driveway, is that going to go right up to the stone wall?
It's gonna go, well, the driveway itself, the travel part, I always call it the travel way.
Yeah.
Will not. That will stop, but we'll widen that up to 18 feet to 22 feet if we can get
As
that.
it, roughly, what is it now?
About 12, 13 feet wide.
Okay, so we're going to add maybe 6 feet.
Yeah, right. And then it's gonna be a slope to go to the wall. We're gonna slope that down and then loom and seed
What
that.
kind of material are you going to be able to use to regrade it?
Well, I'm hoping just use some loom and seed. And then we
No, I
can do
meant
some.
I meant the driveway itself, because you're going to have to regrade that, because it's a lot of ruts and everything. Or you're just going to scoop it out with a blade?
I think that we're gonna be able to run a blade down there and probably try to level that out
We won't have
with
to
the
bring
material
in-
that's actually
we won't
out
have
there.
to bring in additional material.
Right, I think if we came and we backbladed from where the parking lot's proposed and tried to bring that grade back, I think we can actually fill most of that in and not have to truck in any kind of material onto that site. That's the idea.
At this point, we don't know whether or not we want to put evergreens between the parking and the Poles property. If it gets, if the view from the Poles back porch and backyard is a bunch of parked cars on the weekends, we may want to put some evergreens in there just to provide some view protection.
Yep.
When can this project start, Scott?
Oh, that would be a question beyond, I don't ask that
A
question.
question of who?
I don't run the crew, so,
So you haven't had that discussion?
no, I haven't had that discussion.
Can you
Not
find
on-
that out
I
for
can
us?
find that out for you, yes.
All right, thanks, Dave. Carl, any questions, comments? Nothing good? All right, nothing more for the commission. All right, let's see if anybody from the public has questions for the applicant. Sir, I see you way in the back. Yeah, come on forward, please.
Alan Zanich, 107 Boston Road. Is there any risk to altering the water flow in the actual Putnam Brook itself with these activities?
Well, let's see, hear from our DPW and see if there's any concern here.
So the actual, we're not gonna increase any kind of flow or any speed of runoff to go down towards the Putnam Brook. The grade is going to basically remain the same, so it's not going to speed up or hinder or move anything faster into the brook. So the amount of rain that's out there right now, since we're not going to have any kind of impervious surface, we're not gonna have pavement out there.
Okay.
It still should be going right through the soil and do a recharge and not have an impact on the brook. But it's something we can always watch if I doubt anything like that would happen.
Okay.
But we're not going anywhere. DPW will be here if something shows up.
Yeah, good. Sir, a little closer to the mic, we want to make sure. Yeah, good, thanks.
And are there like further plans for footpaths or a bridge over there, or is this what's next after the parking?
So I can answer that. There are paths on the site. We don't have any plans to add new paths at the moment, other than we probably will at some point.
Okay.
But over Putnam Brook, are you asking specifically about Putnam Brook? There's been some discussion about having an area kind of behind where this parking area is, towards the brook, and just having a trail, a very simple walking trail, probably an in and out trail. But, that could be years from now. There's an awful lot of invasive weeds in that area, so it would be a big project just to clean up the weeds to make it worthwhile. But it wouldn't be anything more than a dirt path. That would be
Okay.
about it.
And where did the number 15 parking spaces come from? Was it just a...
Yeah, we've just experienced at other sites, and
I think
what
that's
we
Our
felt.
experience at other sites is the basis for it.
Yeah, and what
Okay.
we felt we could fit in here in this footprint.
Okay. And the discussions around the entranceway, the traffic calming or whatever, that's going to be down the line and presumably another committee?
Well, right now, the expectation is that this project will proceed, and the DPW will come up with a more detailed plan for how the entrance will be configured and maybe reconfigured, because it actually has good visibility.
Yeah.
As you come out, you can see both sides of Boston Road, left and right, and you have good visibility there. But it's an extremely busy site, so we
Yeah,
need
it's a little bit
good
faster
signage.
sometimes as well with the trucks.
Yeah, we need good signage. We might need a blinking light, a crosswalk, because there are
Right.
people, I'm guaranteeing you, there will be lots of people in that neighborhood on both sides of Boston Road that will be coming in there.
Yes.
So I would anticipate, if you think about like the rail trail crossings, it may be as much as that at some point, but it's kind of the DPW's call on that.
Fair enough. And is it a 25 mile an hour in front of that entranceway at the moment, or is it a 30? Do we...
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thank
It's
you.
in that, it's in
It's
that.
30 unless posted, because it's 30 throughout town unless there's a sign to the contrary.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing a 25-mile-an-hour sign on Boston Road, but
Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Someone else from the public with questions or comment at this point? Yes, please.
Charlene Ashenbo, 49 Hall Road. So I'm just questioning about the long term. Are you planning any other drives into the property? And I know you mentioned about extending parking areas potentially. Would that be in the same area?
That's a good question.
You want me to address
Yeah,
that?
Carl, you
Sure.
want to respond?
I recognize the name. Hello there. So as you know, there are access points at Hall Road, at Parker Road, at Fay Road, at Acton Road, and at Bartlett Street. if I get that right, going all the way around. And we don't have any plans right now, other than at the corner of Acton and Bartlett, right where the pumping station is. We're likely to do a footpath in there. There may be little to no signage, other than just a footpath behind the pumping station to go in there, to allow people on that side from the Bartlett Street area to walk into the property from that area, and it would be a very simple path into the woods and connect into the trail system. Someday, I wouldn't rule out Parker Road. It's not on our plans right now, but it is a possibility because it would allow us to connect into the Wright Reservation. And one of our things we like to do is connect different reservations and allow people to walk. That would be the only possible place. And as you know, there is an encroachment in that area, and so we have to get that all resolved in the meantime. On the Hall Road side, we don't have any plans.
I mean,
for
the
that.
residents certainly have access to Warren Farm from Hall Road, down by Kate. Is it Kate or Katie?
Kate Lane.
And the residents have access to the Warren Pole Reservation from Bartlett Street, which they all use now. And those are pedestrian access, really. They'll remain. I mean, we would not discourage the residents from using those access. Parker Road and Fay, you can't really get onto the site. It's just too wet without significant work.
Well, yeah, Parker, it's still very wet back there, yeah.
Carl's
Fay's
comment
up.
about Warren would be an ideal one, because one of the objectives of the Conservation Commission is, where possible, to try to join reservations so that people have much more access. Warren Pole is 53 acres. Wright Reservation is 98 acres. We could join into a 150-acre conservation parcel. Easier said than done, but that would be, and at one point, and as Carl said, if we ever thought we needed parking for 50 cars, which I think is highly unlikely, we couldn't do it here. We'd have to go, and the most logical place would be to go into Wright Reservation and have parking there. The probability of that occurring, I think, is pretty low.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes, please come forward.
Hi, Nancy Caraccio, 43 Hall Road, and I have owned this property for 36 years. And I'm concerned because after I got this letter, I looked on your website, and it talked about that there will be entrance at one of the points being 43 Hall Road. And I'm concerned because I want to know, are people going to be allowed to walk up my driveway and walk onto my property to get to this farm? I own the 2.2 acres.
Well, let's see if we can get you an answer, ma'am. Carl, you want to talk?
There's no plan to post an entrance other than at the front on Boston Road. That's the only place, and perhaps on the back by Bartlett and Acton Road. And even there, it would be minimal signage. It would be very much local access. On Hall Road, we have no plans to allow, to create an entrance there.
Then are you telling people that I would be allowed to say, hey, no, this is my property, you're not allowed to walk in here? Am I allowed to do that?
Well, there is a strip of land there that is owned by the town that goes out to Hall Road.
Yes, but I believe you have to come up my driveway to get to that strip of land.
Yeah,
My driveway
I don't have a
runs
good answer for you.
up to my house.
Okay, well, it sounds like a legal question. You certainly, I can tell you in general, I mean, and for all of us, we all have our, property rights. So,
Yes.
any property rights, and if there's a question of access of somebody, generally, I mean, private property owners can say to people, hey, you're not allowed on my land, and if you're coming on my land, you're a trespasser. So in general, that you've got private property rights, but if there's possibly some sort of encroachment or something like that, some sort of legal issue, then basically the town's legal department would have to get in touch with you if there was some sort of legal issue,
What do you mean, get in touch with me to say people are going to be allowed to walk?
Well, if there was a question about access onto your property, then you would have to hear from the town about that. But right now, we're not aware of any access.
You can
your
prevent
property.
people from crossing your private property.
Yeah,
Just remember, if you ever put up a sign telling people they can't, you assume additional liability because you put the sign up, as opposed to having no sign. But you can protect your property rights.
Okay, so I have no sign, I
I'm
should
not
not...
telling you to have a sign
I
or
know,
not. I'm
you're
just
telling
saying,
me
if
I-
you put a sign up, you
Yeah.
assume more responsibility.
Yeah. Am I allowed to call the police department to say someone's on my property?
Sure, why not?
absolutely. Yeah,
I would.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if somebody came walking across my property, I would, you know. that-
You have
absolutely,
many people
yeah.
crossing your property
Happen
now
much, yeah.
to get to Warren Pole?
No, I have not noticed any people, no.
Good.
But I'm a little concerned. I'm a widow, and I live there
Sure.
alone. So I'm a little concerned.
Well, no, and
I'm
it's,
sure you can appreciate.
sure, and I'm glad you came here tonight, kind of can hear from the commission what the plans are. So I'm hearing from Carl, there's no plans for an access there at that point. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of comfort.
Okay. So I am allowed to call the police and say someone's on the
Absolutely.
property?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you.
Sure. Hey, thanks for coming. Any more public input, questions or anything, you know? Yes, please come forward.
Beth Logan,
Beth
former
Logan.
commissioner. Years ago, we had little signs that you could put along the borders of the property so that situations like this, people would know that they were leaving to private property. And I would just suggest that maybe if we think that that's an area of concern, the commission considers that.
Good point.
Thank you, Beth. Good suggestion.
Thank you.
Any other public questions, input at this point? Sir, come on forward.
I'm Dale Williams. I'm 21 Clarissa Road. I'm president of the Chelmsford Land Conservation Trust, and I'm working with the Conservation Commission on the conservation restriction for the Warren Pool property. We have been given this plan earlier by Carl, and we approved the idea of 15 spaces. But the current language in the current proposal of the conservation restriction specifies that there will be no more than 15 spaces at this site. But there could be another site on the property with an additional 15 spaces if the if the town so desires. So, that may mean a different kind of entrance, one of the other access points. Now, this is just the current wording in the CR, and this is not settled yet. We still have more discussions to have about it. But I just wanted to say that the current plan, someone asked about where did the number 15 come from? I don't really know, but we said that sounds like a fine number of spaces to have for parking. And as you know, our perspective in the conservation restriction is to preserve the open space aspect of the property and to not have any activity go on the property that would be detrimental to wildlife, to flora or fauna. So the idea of, we didn't want to see a site, for instance, I think someone said, well, if you needed 50 spaces, but we don't really want to see 50 parking spaces go into a site, because that's going to take up a lot more land. I had something else that I was going to say, but it just went out of my head. So,
Trees or?
no. I've been working with Carl and David on this, and like I say, we're still going on. The water department, I don't know if you know this, the water department has to be part of the conservation restriction. And we have to have discussions with the water department about site locations for possibly a future well somewhere off in the distance. That type of a well is usually pretty restrictive as to what can go on in the place, so we're hoping to get it put in a location where it would not impact the other activities that might go on in the property.
Good, okay.
That's what I've got.
Well, thank you, Mr. Williams, for sharing that information with the commission and with the public. We appreciate that. Anyone else from the public like to add information, ask questions? We appreciate everyone taking the time to come out tonight and be here. All right, any further commission comments, questions?
I just, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Coons, yeah.
I just think I need a little bit more clarification on, possibly removing trees and pruning trees. So, and how to address that in the order of conditions. So would that be maybe just as simple as saying, having a condition saying that it shall be up to the discretion of the DPW and its contractor to determine whether trees need to be removed and/or pruned in order to provide for public safety, something like that?
We could do that, and I also could,
And I'd like to make sure that you as the agent was, had input into that as well, too.
yeah, I'd give you a heads up and have you walk it, and
Exactly.
actually mark the
Okay.
trees up,
Exactly.
and say what we're gonna do.
That sounds good.
Good. Good. Other comments, questions?
I have one thing to add.
Yes, Scott?
Is that I did add the kiosk on here, but I know that it might not be the actual spot where the kiosk is gonna go. I just wanted to add it to the plan.
Yep.
I added it in the parking lot, so
Okay.
We may select
not
a
that I-
slightly different spot,
Right,
but
it
it
might be a
wouldn't be,
different
it
spot
wouldn't
on
be very much different. It'll be in
Right.
the same general area.
All right, good. Good, Scott, good.
Okay.
So I guess the question I've got is, are there any open items that we need to address?
Mr. Chairman,
yeah,
I
Dave?
move the Conservation Commission waive the 25-foot no disturbance barrier on this plot, on this proposal.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, it'd be impossible not to have, impact within that zone just because of the
One of the
layout.
conservation for the audience, one of the Conservation Commission regulations is that there be no activity within 25 feet of the wetlands, none. That means you couldn't cut trees down, right? Well, as you saw in this, the road's going to be right up at the edge of wetlands, so we have to waive that provision. And we do it on occasion where the practicality of the work, be it for a commercial project or a residential project, where it just doesn't fit that. So I make that motion.
All right, we have a motion then, waive the 25-foot setback. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Bill. Any discussion? I mean, I just think if it's, there's no practical alternative. You can't put that driveway in without being within 25 feet of a wetland resource, so there's no alternative. So anyway, all those in favor?
All right?
Aye. Any opposed? None. Unanimous. All right, good.
And the only special order I heard was the one that Dave just articulated about trees. Vivian, did you get the good enough language for that?
It sounded like you were requesting certain verbiage and the DPW would give advance notice of any kind of tree work.
I think there'd be a plan, there'd be a tree cutting plan prepared by the DPW, and that it would be reviewed and approved by the agent prior to the cutting.
Yeah.
We got
I
a file
agree.
number?
Yeah, and then we can do a site walk and.
What?
go
We
over
have a
the
file number?
Do we have a file number for the file? We
Yep,
do?
that's been assigned.
All right, good. Good. Do we have any DP comments yet?
There are no comments. I don't expect that there will be any.
Okay.
They can't spell the word.
All right. So, yes, file number, no comments.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Conservation Commission issue an order of conditions for, what's the street number?
95.
95 Boston Road for the construction of the parking lot with one special condition which pertains to the tree cutting, tree plan, and Vivian has that language, right?
Right.
Well, I think you have to close the public hearing first.
We don't do that.
But you don't do that?
We've never done it. Doesn't mean we can't.
Okay.
Thank you. We don't mind the public discussing while we're discussing.
Yeah, we welcome input. Let's see, so Dave made the motion, do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Bill. All right, any discussion before we vote? All right, no discussion. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. All right.
Good job, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, Scott, you're gonna find out when when you're gonna start, or
Right.
let Dave know?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up, and I'll.
And same for
I'll
people in the audience tonight, too. You know, as the project goes forward, feel free to call our agent in the office and, you know, for updates or information as to what's going on out there. So we just keep the communication going.
Could I have
Okay.
his name and telephone number, please?
Mr. David Coons, Koonce. He's the agent, and the number these days is 978-250-5248 work? Actually, no, 5231.
Option number 2.
5231.
It may still have the old conservation agent's name in it.
Okay, I'm sorry, could you spell the last name again, sir?
Koonce.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So then, moving on, tonight's agenda. Next up is a discussion item related to Oddfellows in the Chelmsford Center. We're getting an update from our conservation agent as to what's happening out there. We've seen some construction activity going on. So, Mr. Coons, can you give us, the commission, an update
Sure,
as to
and,
what's happening out there?
And I'll just pass these around. Is Mr. Bayani here by any chance?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So I met last week with Mr. Bayani, Mr. Human Bayani, and his contractor, Zach. I didn't catch his last name.
Cora.
So I felt a really good discussion with them on site, expressed to them both the commission's concerns about the continued work on removing the siding on the back of the building, the side that's closest to the wetland. So what, and we discussed a number of possible approaches to addressing the commission's concerns. I asked them to provide a detailed work sequence for continued work on removing the siding on property, which they did provide me, and which I've just passed out to the commission. I mean, this looks very good to me. I think it's a matter of then also giving me once they resume the work, giving me regular status reports. Again, probably at least bi-weekly, at least twice weekly, something like that. Mr. Bayani did satisfy me that there's no hazardous materials in the siding, actually what's already been removed. My understanding is he had it tested for lead. There was no lead in the paint. There was no asbestos. So I'm comfortable that what they have provided here in this writing should address the commission's concerns. I think it's mostly a matter of communication at this point.
Good. It's a good update. Let's see if the commissioners have any questions right now. Mr. McLaughlin?
Who's going to answer my question? Okay, good. Is all the interior work, demolition work done? Or is there still more to be done?
About 90% is done. We waiting.
Anything else that's going to be done? Are you going to take it out the back of the building as opposed to the side, please?
All the debris has been taken off the back of the building.
No, when you create more debris inside the building.
Yes.
when you take it out, will you take it out as far away from the stream as you can, which is probably the back of the building, right?
Correct, and that's how I believe it's been conducted, through carting them all out. When they removed the sidings, even through the Brookside, they handpicked them all and put them in the cart from the inside, and they carted them out of the building.
How are you gonna remove, there's one section of white siding that still remains to come down on the stream side.
Correct.
Are you gonna have to stand in the water to get that siding off, or can you get it off with a crane?
Actually, sir, part of that description that the company provided the commission with is to utilize a boom.
You can do it, I mean, will you do it from the street, from?
Correct, so they're gonna be,
Reach in?
well, either from the street from one side, and if
Or
it's
the
closer from
parking
Mr.
lot?
Harrington's property, who's given us
Okay.
permission to do so.
That's all I
Okay, thanks, Dave. Any other questions?
No, I think this is pretty good.
Good plan? Good.
I'm just curious why we weren't, there wasn't an NOI for this entire project done.
Actually, the renovations to the building were actually included in the notice of intent. This issue was not specifically addressed in the order of conditions, but it definitely was included in the notice of intent filing.
And that means the demolition, not the reconstruction.
Well,
Bill's point's correct. We never had a discussion about what that building was gonna look like and what impact it would have on Beaver Brook. We may have had a discussion, or had them explain to us that they were gonna do some demolition work. I totally agree with you, Bill. We didn't know what that building was gonna look like.
You talking about the NOI?
Same
there was-
size?
the specific wording in the NOI was renovation.
Yeah.
And that was part of the other project, the apartments, so this was a separate?
No, it was part of Finnegan's
Right,
condominium.
but that was denied by the planning board. I'm just trying to get an idea why.
But when we had our hearing
Right,
on Finnegan's condominium
Right.
that we approved, what David is saying is part of that hearing, or part of the discussion, was to renovate the Oddfellows Hall.
with no specifics, though.
With no, yeah, and I don't even remember us having that discussion, to be quite honest with you.
If I remember right, we questioned this project, because we knew it was potential restaurant and apartments, but with no specifics as far as if there was going to be any work outside as far as decks go, or repaving, or how you're going to handle the siding and those issues outside. We didn't discuss any of that, or.
No,
I
the
don't-
renovation of this building, as it currently stands, and the paperwork supporting it before the Conservation Commission, does not meet our standards of what we would require
Right.
if that were a standalone building coming before us,
Right.
and it should.
I don't believe there's any mention of location of a grease trap.
Is it,
Good example.
is
If
it
I may,
inside the building or outside?
if I may,
Sure. go
all
ahead.
the changes and all the renovation details was presented to other boards. I'm not sure about conservation. So it was approved by the Historic Commission.
I'm sure they were.
Yes.
But that's the point I'm making. Conservation didn't.
I think we should have been part of that process, and we weren't. And
I'm
if-
sorry,
If you're looking at, the apartment project as far as getting it through because of that project, that was denied by the planning board, and at those meetings, we were told that we would be presented with what this project was going to be when it was decided how it was going to go. So I feel like we missed out on something.
In the old days.
All right, well, we have counsel, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, Attorney Melissa Robbins from Farrell and Robbins. I can answer your question about the notice of intent and the renovation. It was included all as part of the original notice of intent. This was always permitted as one project. I can tell you I was at the commission meeting when we had a very brief discussion about how we were going to deal with this siding, but it was as an aside. It didn't end up being any sort of special condition in your permit, which I think it should have, especially on the sensitive side of the river. I think that the information you have in front of you today actually addresses that concern. I will also tell you that the revised plans were actually submitted to your conservation agent as well. And since they were less intense.
Excuse me, revised plans for what?
When the final plans were done, when just Oddfellows came back without the apartment building, they were submitted to the Conservation Commission, and the conservation agent at the time.
Not the commission.
Yeah, the agent.
Maybe the agent.
Yes, we submitted to the agent, and I think, I don't have the writing, but there is a writing from Katie Gerton that the plans were approved, and that it was a decrease.
Well, then I would, as a commission member, I'd say that was an error. I think we were passed by on that, and there may have been a reason for it.
It was actually less impactful, so the only thing.
That's not the issue. It's
Sure.
not whether it's less, I mean, my only concern with the Oddfellows building is the protection of Beaver Brook.
Sure.
That, in the magnitude of the project, that may be considered minor, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that.
Sure.
But we have to protect Beaver Brook, and the only way we can do it is to have a total understanding of what the client wants to do with that building.
Sure.
Just demolishing the inside of it, in my mind, isn't enough. Mark had a good question. Where's the grease trap gonna go? Is it gonna affect Beaver Brook at all? We don't know. And I'd like to, I think that we have to get to that point. Now, there may be people in town that don't want that to happen, that want this thing to go straight through, but if we're gonna do our job, we've gotta look at the regulations in light of what the applicant wants to do.
I think we were skipped over in the process. It could have been an accident or just missed out on something. I don't have an issue with what he's proposing tonight. I just think we were left out of we should have saw specifics on this before they started work, and we could have addressed these issues and asked questions, like, tonight, that addition it's on the side of the building, are you doing any foundation work with that? Is that on piers now? Is nothing being done with that? Those are the type of questions I think didn't have the opportunity to ask.
Sure. I really just followed the procedure that was presented to us as participants in the whole project, and then followed through with the final planning board decision and the HDS, so.
I just think we were left out at some point for whatever reason.
You know, Billy, the other two buildings, or the Fisk House, certainly, that's outside of our jurisdiction, because it's more than 100 feet
Right.
from Beaver Brook.
Right.
So I understand why we didn't have more specifics about that one.
If I may answer a couple of questions, the grease trap is on the driveway side as you enter the parking lot. It was on part of the planning design that Katie Enright presented and was approved. Not on the back of the building, but if you're facing the building, on the left side on the parking lot.
I think you did what you were asked to do, planning board and those things, but I think maybe, I don't know if it was our prior agent that left us out of the loop, or what was the issue was, but I think we should have been part of that whole planning board process with our questions as far as the grease tank, the siding coming off the building, and whatever other, dumpsters, proximity to the water, different things like that, and I don't think we were given that opportunity. Like I said, I don't have an issue with what you're doing down there, we just want to have the process,
I apologize on behalf of the team. It
No,
was nothing intentional, at
yeah.
least on my part and my partner's part, that's for sure, and
That's fine.
our representatives
I don't know
either.
what that says.
Just to clarify one thing, about 3 weeks ago, the company that is doing the demolition, SMS Demolition and Environmental Company, they and us, we decided to halt everything to get more guidance from the town. And then we got a letter, or email rather, from the town manager after, which we immediately responded that what we did was, on our own, we stopped the whole progress of the demolition on that side until we have some solution. Then we met with Mr. Coons, and we came up with this proposal, which is, I think, the best way to approach it. And we will use the same method when we are reconstructing and putting the new siding back on, which will be cut away from the brook, not painted, because it will come pre-painted, and just be nailed in place.
Right.
We stopped on our own because we were concerned. We wanted to make sure that we're not doing anything to damage the wetlands, so there was no mandate for us to stop at that point, but we did on our own, just so the commission knows.
It's difficult for us to ask questions when we don't have a plan or your direction, which way you're going with it. So again, when I mentioned the grease trap, is there any outside dining? Is there gonna be a patio?
Yes.
You changing, I don't know that.
I apologize, I thought everyone in town, every board would have the same information. I didn't know it was so fragmented that one area would know and the other side.
I think
wouldn't.
part of the problem is this was originally part of the apartment
Correct.
complex that was denied, and the questions we had when, at that time, I don't think the specifics were, you hadn't decided what you were gonna do exactly at that point, so there were no specific questions or answers.
Right, we were a totally different entity from the group that was going to do the condo and apartment
Well,
building.
that wasn't the way it was presented originally.
Right, okay,
It
so,
was one entity that was gonna take care of both projects.
I don't believe so, that was never the
Well,
case.
So you can see our confusion.
Yes. So we had, yeah.
Let me ask,
Melissa can explain
let me
more.
ask the contractors on the board, do you think this sequence of what they want to do to keep material out of Beaver Brook is adequate?
Yeah, that's due diligence. I mean,
Is
you
20
can't- you
feet,
can't do
is
much
20
better than
feet
that.
from the building enough?
Yeah, this is fine.
I think 20 feet, you're into the other building.
No, 20 feet going down the stream. That's what that
Yeah, I
says,
mean, I
right?
think that's what we want to do now. We want to make sure that we're protecting the stream, we want to protect the wetland resources, we got an obligation to oversee that. I think what we want to do is have this in writing and have this as a memorandum of agreement, and we work closely with our agent to do it right.
Why don't we, then we could vote to accept
Yeah.
the proposal from the name of the contractor as a vote of the commission.
Yeah.
But I think after that, we need to understand, and maybe we need Mr. Kuntz to talk to Evan Belansky, because he's the head of community development that involves all of these other commissions.
Well, the engineer that presented both projects should be here.
I don't know,
With the plan.
Katie's probably not working on it.
Is
No,
there
she is
another
she is
engineer involved?
no longer under
Right,
contract.
right, yeah, right. Do you want,
Is there another engineer involved in this project?
well, it's these guys.
Yes, but we'd be happy to get the commission answered any questions that they need to, even if we have to get Katie involved. I will just like to say, Human and Ali have tried to do everything proper from beginning construction to the end. I know the commission's upset because they feel like something's been missed here, but I can tell you that they did in their own good faith stop
I don't think it
construction.
was
They wanna-
anything on your end, to be honest with you.
No, and I really want to
It's
make,
not a matter of good faith.
Right.
I totally agree they're doing their job, but
yes.
we have a legal obligation, and we want to honor it.
Yes, and I think that if we put this memorandum into record, you have a great conservation agent now working almost soon to be
Thank you.
full-time.
You're lucky.
So we can be communicating directly with them, giving direct notice to David when we're going to start this construction, start new work, and if he sees any questions on the approved NOI plan or any of the other construction plans, we can make sure to get this commission any questions that you may have, and we'd be happy to come back to the commission's meeting on the 21st, just to make sure that everything's moving along smoothly.
Just one more thing I'll add is that at the site visit, Mr. Biani did agree to move the dumpster further back from the wetlands, all the way back. There, the property line is, where the property line is a wall, and he agreed to move the dumpster all the way back to that wall that's in the parking lot, so. I think that-
Let me give you an example. Normally, we have a simple discussion about snow removal on a site. This is now a separate site, because the condo project was killed.
Sure.
We don't know where snow removal is going to go on this site. That's part of that may seem very mundane, but it's one of the things we always ask. Do you want a motion on this, Chris?
Yeah, let's have a motion to accept this plan,
Okay.
this memorandum.
I move we accept the debris protection plan for Central Square submitted by SMS Services, Inc. And that the work that's contemplated in this plan be reviewed by the conservation agent at his discretion.
Very good, Dave. Good, we have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Bill. Any further discussion?
You said there's no lead in that building at all in the paint?
That's what he
The
said.
siding, sir.
On the siding?
Correct.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the texture of the shingles also looked like, to me, at the beginning, like asbestos shingles, but it was actually cedar.
Right.
They're all cedar
Right,
shingles.
I remember
And
that, yeah.
we tested it with 3 different times to see if there's any lead paint, and all 3 times came back negative.
Okay, I
You
believe
find
it.
any old gold coins in the
Yes, sir, but I cannot disclose how much.
So, we're gonna vote on that first?
Well, we need a vote, yeah. Any more comments before we vote? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous.
So as far as do we have plans in our file of where the patio's going? We have that?
Yeah, the amended plan set, but we can get whatever copies that David wants, so we'll talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah, I
and
just
make
want
sure
us to
we have whatever.
have everything we're supposed to have.
I'm not trying to beat this, but the plans for a patio, the grease trap, they're all in the original plans that when Jay was putting his building up, this was already in
Yes, this
there?
was still all part of that original development. So the revised plans eliminated the apartments, but they've reduced the impact to the resource areas, actually, but they're all showed on the modified plans, but we can answer all of those questions.
Yeah, because we weren't given the opportunity at that.
Sure.
When that apartment was before us.
I can actually tell you that we will be back before this board in their second meeting in December, because there are 3 very ancient NOIs that are still outstanding on that property, some from the 80s that we haven't been able to find plans for. But we have to come back and get COCs, so you will have an opportunity at that meeting. We can answer some further questions, and if David has questions before that. So we'll be here, Mayor Cal will actually be here asking for those NOI released at that point, so we're happy to answer any questions
I think
you
that'd be
have.
good, just so we understand where things are gonna go, because when that apartment came through, this was kind of pushed on the back burner, like, well, when we do that, you'll get that information.
Yeah, we're happy
Never
to.
got it, so.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing a great job down there. I think that's gonna be a good project. And so I'm not here to beat you up. I think it's more on our end that things just didn't go the way they should have, so.
Yeah,
Good
and
luck
to
with
to
that.
that point, I mean, you came in tonight, which is good, you're communicating, meeting with our agent, and that's how we're working together to address the
Let me
concerns.
just,
Dave?
I think let me remind the commission that when Jay was proposing the condominiums down there, we got a letter from DEP that effectively slapped our wrist about how close to the stream activity could be. And DEP is saying that you can't be as close to streams as we used to be. Now, you're not gonna move this building, because the building's on the stream, but when DEP reviews this building, they may have some comments about the activity near the stream that we're unaware of, because they're adopting a more strict position.
The work actually on the construction of this building was included in the original NOI. I think the DEP's original comments were to the work we wanted to do within that 35-foot buffer that was brand-new
Well, there was a piece
construction.
of
and
land
the-
you were gonna donate to
Yes.
the town or something, right?
So they did not want any brand-new work within that area.
But that raised eyebrows in my part about,
Yes.
gee, maybe we can't do the kinds of stuff as close to streams as we wanted to do.
Right.
And what impact does that have on other people?
I agree.
So, yeah, this sounds like it's good, we got a plan, we voted on that tonight, we're gonna see you guys on the 21st.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next on tonight's agenda is discussion related to some tree removal out at 14 Lovett Lane. Oh, we missed some, oh, yeah, excuse me, you're right. UMass Lowell, thank you. UMass Lowell, West Campus Development Agreement.
Good evening, members of the commission again. Melissa Robbins for the record. We are here tonight to discuss the development agreement for Trammell Co., which is the UMass Lowell West Campus, it's still being called. With me tonight is Nick Delacava from Allen and Major, just in case you have any general site questions, and Mason Brunick from Trammell Co. I know the board has.
Does your client have a better name for the site?
UMass Lowell West Campus. Look, we even tried to turn it into an abbreviation, but the town loves these. CEAOD, BAOD, VCOD, so this is in line with the rest of them, I feel like. Has to be a tongue twister. There's one specific section in that development agreement we're really looking for some direction from the commission, and it's regarding the open space and the conservation restriction. There's a couple questions I have for the commission, just to get their thoughts and insights. We're really trying to tie this up for the selectmen's meeting on December 20th, and maybe come back with some of the commission's input, so the selectmen can better understand what the commission would like to see here as to the CR and the open space. So the first question is to the conservation restriction itself. I know you have some language in there, and I don't know if you actually had town council's comments in your margin, but there are some questions about how the CR should be held. Right now, it says that the land shall be held via conservation restriction. It can also be conveyed out to a third-party trust, like the Chelmsford Conservation Land Trust. But the question is, would this be a locally held restriction or a restriction under Chapter 184? I already had a brief discussion with your conservation agent, so I know his input is to have a Chapter 184 restriction through the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, and I know that David can speak to that for himself as well.
Well, I think what I said to Melissa was, I wouldn't have a problem with that, except that I didn't think that should be, the commission should hold that, because, I mean, the commission has enough to worry about already. I mean, that you know, the commission holding a Chapter 184 restriction does entail a certain amount of work on the commission's part to, you know, at least in theory, do, you know, annual monitoring, and then if the subject of enforcement ever comes up, then it's the town has to pursue that. So that's my opinion.
Where did the idea of a conservation restriction come from? It didn't come from us.
No, we've had some questions about what we can do with the open space, and certainly the abutters would like to see it preserved. They don't want to see any sort of...
So it's not the whole site?
No, it's 50% of the site will be preserved as open space, and then some portion within that...
Is that 50%?
It's in the overlay itself. It's
delineated in what we just got here.
The 50% is actually what's shown as the open space, which is everything.
So it's 50%, as it is now, it is 50%.
That's correct, and then...
That will stay, and so on this map, it's everything between the apartments and Princeton Street.
Basically.
Right? Okay.
And they do allow, some of the open spaces are things that the Conservation Commission generally probably...
What is the town's recommendation as to who holds the restriction?
They don't have a recommendation about who holds the restriction, but I'll tell you that I understand that this commission generally doesn't want to hold them. We already had a brief discussion.
Nobody asked us if we wanted to be involved in it.
Right.
Another one. Oh, there's
Right.
two for two tonight.
We're happy to have the Chelmsford Conservation Commission hold it.
I never saw town council's comments whatsoever on that part of the document.
Okay, well, some of them had marginal comments, but I mean, it's neither here nor there. His comments were whether it should be a local or whether it should be a Chapter 184, and that's really something that we can talk about in a second. But if this commission wants to hold the CR, that's, you know, obviously something that we can discuss. And it's generally easier for me if conservation commissions want to hold the 184 restriction, because they have agents and resources generally that understand preservation of land, what can be done with
That's an
resources.
argument to do it, because when you look at this, when you look at the proposal, first of all, almost any activity in that 50% of the land is going to be within our jurisdiction anyhow.
Correct.
Certainly a good, so if Trammell Crow or whoever owns the building wants to do something, chances are they're going to have to come before us to do it anyhow.
That's
So
correct.
Us holding the restriction might not be a bad idea.
Well, then I guess my question would be, would the property owner be willing and able to provide the commission with an endowment? You know, a certain amount of money that the commission can then draw from to be able to, perform its legal requirements under the CR.
I mean, certainly we can discuss that. I mean, even I think a third-party
A
group
lot of
would,
money floating around.
would
in
need
this
that.
agreement.
And just to your point, that even the entrance to this project, certain portions of it, as soon as you come in, there's resource areas right over to the right-hand side. And then there's another portion of wetlands to the rear of this property. And I think it's 6.75 acres.
6.5.
Yeah, approximately what's a resource area, an actual wetland within the open space of this development. So a large portion of that is within your purview. I'll tell you, at this point, our expectation was we would keep most of this as a vista area open, not put any trails or access to the rear of the property whatsoever. That seems to be more of the sensitive area to the site.
Your clients come to that conclusion. They don't want to turn it into a theme park.
That's correct.
Okay.
And
No,
really,
no,
what we are trying to do within the buffer zone or within the notice of intent, and this goes into part 2, but that's okay because it's merging together, is perhaps up on the Princeton Street side, there's been a lot of interest in perhaps putting a very small pocket park. I think that honestly, once we get into the invasives removal and do some buffer management, some other things out there, there will be some space for a pocket park, especially right there along Princeton Street where the public could actually get onto the property. We've had a lot of conversations with Mr. Zaharoulis, who's actually in a butter to the property, that area used to be well mowed, and you used to be able to see down to a small...
Still is well-known.
So, yeah, see down to a small pond area, and it used to be a lot more visual and a lot more pretty, and I think that once we get some of the invasives out, it could actually be that great vista again, and to give the public a little spot where they could pull aside, have a bench, have an area that they could
Yeah,
look
but I
at the
don't
vista.
think from one of those public hearings, I don't think the town wants it to be open to the public.
They don't want...
And I don't think your client does, your client doesn't want 50 or 60 cars driving in there.
This would be a pocket park that's along Princeton, so it wouldn't be within the project itself. You wouldn't be going back for 100 feet into a walking trail to get to the back area of a vista. I'm talking about along Princeton Street, so somewhere near the entrance. But again,
Certainly, pocket parks are consistent with the town's open space master plan, which encourages pocket parks, and Lord knows what the definition is, but it means small.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I have one recommendation to be made to paragraph, is it 11? Recreational and open space. That is that after the sentence, 35% of the total area, including wetlands, shall be set aside as recreational and open space. I would like to insert the sentence, the area within 100 feet of the wetlands, as defined by the Chelmsford Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 187, shall remain undeveloped and free from invasive plants. So that says no activity within 100 feet of the wetlands,
Well, except invasive plant management. it
except
sounds
for invasive plant management, right.
well, and there will be some work within, we will have to come to this commission for work within 100 feet of the wetlands. I think certainly when you come into the project along the right-hand side.
I'm saying nothing except invasive plant removal.
I don't think you can even get into the site and put in a detention basin without being within 100 feet of a wetland, is
Well,
what I'm
we
telling
can,
you. To get into the project itself, I think right now that fence is actually...
I'm not a lawyer, but don't push me on that language.
No, I think even the fence right now that's up on the property may even be in the resource area.
I do not want any activity within 100 feet of the wetlands in that site. That's what I'm saying.
But I think given the location of...
Now, my fellow commissioners haven't heard this before.
Sure.
You know, they may not agree with me.
If I may, I would like to just let the engineer talk to you quickly about where the location of the resource areas are, just so that I'm not giving the commission any false information.
It's on your map.
Yeah, we have a notice of resource area delineation, so we know the location of the wetlands, but I'm pretty sure that we can't even get into the project without doing an NOIs. But I'll let the engineer speak to that quickly.
Well, you're the guys we walked with, right?
It wasn't me.
You-
I met you on the site.
Yes,
site tour.
yes.
Okay.
Last year.
Good, nice tour.
That was a heck of a site walk.
No, we got poison ivy.
We had, I think, 2 of the commissioners came down with poison ivy, and a couple of us had to remove ticks. But other than that,
We're still looking for one of them.
and we still lost one commissioner who's out there. We're down one commissioner, never made it back from the swamp, I don't think, but, please.
So for the record, again, my name is Nick Delicado with Allen & Major Associates, professional engineer. So on the topic of the no disturbance within the 100-foot buffer, the existing road that provides access into the site, that's within the 100-foot buffer. And the current proposal would be to maintain that access off of Princeton Street at the same location. So it would require work within the 100-foot buffer. If we were to work outside the 100-foot buffer, again, I don't have a good plan to show you tonight with where the buffers are and where our new road would be coming in. But it would require cutting down some of the vegetation and trees closer to Whitman Street.
For what purpose?
To maintain disturbance outside the 100-foot buffer.
I don't understand that.
Your request is to have no work within the 100-foot buffer,
My
correct?
request says, shall remain undeveloped. That's what my request is. Now, if there's an existing road, that's developed. So it doesn't pertain to an existing road.
So installing a new road over...
That would not be permitted. That's what I'm proposing.
So if we were to keep the existing road, the width of that road is not adequate to provide access for this proposed development. So we would need to create a new road. And
That's-
if we were to if we had to stay outside that 100-foot buffer, that new accessway becomes closer to the Whitman side of the property to the east. And it would require extensive.
Excuse me, then how can you ask us to submit a proposed language when you can't tell us what your plans are to do to the site? Any language I'm gonna submit to you guys for adoption must be in the context of what you plan to do. I'm not gonna say no undeveloped if you tell me the only way you're gonna get a fire truck into the site is to go through the 100-foot buffer, but you haven't told me that yet.
I was unaware of that.
No, I'm not, I know that's a hypothetical, okay.
But this commission's not losing any of their rights. In order for us to come put the road in, put the structures in, we still have to get a notice of
You
intent.
do, you still, because the only thing we've done so far is the delineation
That's correct.
of the
That's right,
resource line.
that's right.
So you
But
don't,
any work within our jurisdiction, they gotta come in and get
Anyhow.
it.
any of it.
But I'm saying, well, what I'm saying is, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm saying that, in addition to that, this is obviously more restrictive, because I'm saying, not only do they have to come before us, but this says they can't do anything within 100 feet.
Why would you take away rights to the property? If we came
You're
in,
asking us,
if we came in with a 22-unit development by right, we would have the permission of this commission to put in a brand-new roadway, and we would probably disturb more area. So I don't understand the reasoning to be more detrimental to this project.
I don't want 800-plus people walking down to the edge of the wetlands and destroying it.
Sure.
That's why I said what I did.
Okay.
You've lived here all your life, I take it?
I've-
Have you been in Cambridge along the Charles River?
Yes.
Have you seen what they've done in the last 20 years?
Yes.
They let that grow all back because they don't want the public going to the edge of the Charles River and destroying the waterway. No development.
Right. But if this Conservation Commission allows a notice of intent, and then hypothetically, this Conservation Commission is the holder of a conservation restriction that holds almost all the open space and the wetlands and the buffer, then you'd have all the enforcement rights here. You'd actually have more enforcement rights than you would under a general subdivision. This would give you more authority.
I know what rights we have under the bylaw.
Right. I'm saying you
I'm
do.
asking for more.
I'm saying the conservation restriction would give you more, because you would be the holder of it, so you could be the enforcement agent.
We're on the other side of the, I think two of us understand conservation restrictions pretty well right now. Anyhow, you asked for a recommendation, that's my.
Well, anyway, you got Mr. McLaughlin's
my
input.
recommendation.
You have his input for now.
Okay.
But actually, I know we've got a couple other things on the agenda.
Sure.
So maybe we can just frame what we want to talk about today. So one is going to be the CR aspect of it, right? As to whether the commission would be the holder of the CR or whether we'd have a private
Yeah,
entity.
and it doesn't actually even have to go to that level, because it's,
See, that's what I was thinking. I didn't even think we needed to go
No.
to that level of formality.
no. I mean, the question in the development agreement at this point.
The CR has to be negotiated between two parties.
That's right, but that's down the road. Let me just tell you where we are in the process, okay? The overlay hasn't even been approved yet. The planning board meeting to open the public hearing on the overlay itself is tomorrow night. In conjunction with that overlay, we're actually doing a development agreement that will outline some additional mitigation and other conditions that they want to put on the project that's outside of the overlay. Again, these are all assuming that the project is going through. So you actually have two levels here. You have the overlay, which sets forth the open space and what can be done, and the development itself, and then the development agreement, which is talking about mitigation and some other things that are outside of the overlay. You have the development agreement in front of you. The development agreement talks about mostly what can happen to the open space and the conservation restriction. One of the questions that's come up between town council and the planner and some other people is, what is the conservation restriction? Is it a Chapter 184 restriction? Is it a restriction that's held by the town? Is the land just conveyed out? Is that something that the commission's not happy with? And I will tell you, at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, the Board of Selectmen said, we're not the proper authority for this, the Conservation Commission is. And that's why we're here. So don't feel like you've been passed over. I mean, we're still at the beginning of the process. That's why we're here tonight, to start talking about these issues. Again, if the town would like to be the holder if we actually get the overlay approved and then go to get a project, that's wonderful news for me because we don't have to go hunting any further. But the first question is, what form does this commission generally like? Do you want us to go through the process of the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, or is it something that can be done with a local restriction that looks like a 184 restriction, but is not? So really, that's the first question.
Just for the other commissioners' edification, and I think Carl and I mentioned it to you, this CR that we're negotiating with the Land Trust for Warren Poll will probably take 3 years.
Yeah, it's a long process.
And the conservation restriction that the town negotiated for Sunny Meadows took 5 years, I believe. I don't think we want anything like that.
Well, and you had to go that route because you were using CPC funds.
Well, yeah, and also, but there's no CPC funds in this at all?
There will be
Is that the
CPC
reason,
funds.
Chris?
I thought it was.
There will be CPC funds for the affordable portion, but the question really is what do you want the process to be? You go to
I think we
commission,
ought to keep the process in town if we can.
I'd like to keep it simpler and
Right.
shorter if possible.
and I think that was more of your town planner's perspective as well, that there could be a local protection. But other people think it's 184, Executive Office, Environmental Affairs, or nothing. So that's my
That's
first
going to be a
question.
long process.
Yes.
And I don't think you want that.
We don't want that.
So that is, what are the rest of the things?
Yeah, what do you guys think? Any opinions?
I agree with you, Chris. I think it's simpler and keep it within the town.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, so there's some input from the majority.
And the second question really was about that small pocket park. I mean, I think that we don't have a location now, as you've pointed out, we don't have plans that have been submitted under site plan review or anything yet. What we would be proposing is a very small pocket park that would be along the Princeton Road where it's already disturbed. And we think once we start getting some of those invasives out, it will actually open up that area. We'll have a lot more information, obviously, before we come for an NOI, and any discussion you have now is predicated on the fact that we'd have to come back to this commission's approval. So this is just a general discussion on what the commission feels about having a small public pocket park within that area.
Dave, I mean, I'm assuming you don't like the idea of the pocket park.
I am proposing something that is extremely restrictive.
More restrictive, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
This commission is not used to being that restrictive.
No. No.
And it may be the choice of the rest of the commissioners that doing what she said, which is work with the owner based on the Conservation Commission wetland bylaws and regulations is enough. In other words, there could,
Yeah.
another extreme that consistent with our regulations is they could spruce this site up. They could plant grass down to the edge of the wetlands. They could get rid of all the invasives. They could put gravel walkways around it so people can actually walk around the wetlands, maybe joining up with the pocket park. That would be consistent with our bylaw. I mean, we could allow them to do that consistent with our bylaw. So there's kind of two extremes. The one I was proposing was very rustic. In other words, I didn't want anything going on in there. Now, maybe the rest of you would feel it should be, it would help the neighborhood to spruce it up a bit.
See, that's where I'm at. I think that, we could get those invasives out of there, maybe spruce it up a little bit. We don't want a theme park, but spruce it up a little bit. Maybe a small pocket park might be a good thing, at least worthy of looking at. But, that's just, again, one person's opinion.
They could do anything they wanted within 100 feet of the wetlands if we agreed with it.
That's correct.
No,
we'd have to agree.
you're right.
Yeah, we'd have to
That's
agree.
what she's saying, and that's, we've done that many times in
We'd
the
have
past.
to agree,
so.
and it goes through, and notice of intent would come in, we'd have to approve it, and then it goes in for state review as well, too, so, or in appeals, so there's a process to it, but, I don't know, any thoughts from guys here, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I personally have no problem with, work within the 100-foot buffer. There is, the applicant, as they're indicating, there's an existing driveway, correct, within the 100 feet. I don't see why we are going to push back and say, no, that now they can't have anything within 100 feet. So I personally don't have a problem with that.
Anybody else?
I kind of get lost in this thing of having a pocket park in this big area. It's kind of redundant, isn't it?
Well, it'd be upfront. I mean, if we're going to keep, one of the intentions of the conservation restriction, the Executive Office of Environmental Fair ones anyway, is to have an open vista. And they actually like when you make a public location so that they can enjoy the vista. Right now, the only vista would be from across the street from the sidewalk.
Or from the apartment building.
Or from the apartment. So to have like a public amenity, to use the sidewalk to the crosswalk and then to be able to go into a little pocket park, the public would actually have access to that
This
vista.
would be access for the public and the private people to live in there.
That's right, and it would be right along, right now, we're looking right along Princeton. So it wouldn't be something in the site, it wouldn't be something close to the wetlands, and it wouldn't be something on that crazy theme park portion where we're putting down gravel walkways around the pond.
Something that the Trahan condos across the street, people, they could use it, right?
Right.
They just walk across the
Yeah,
street.
no, I kind of agree with what you're saying about, I'd like to keep, like, for example, when they fertilize, to keep nothing near the water. 'Cause look how it's doing to the ponds in Chelmsford and lakes. It's killing them.
I mean, you can put restrictions in there and.
No, I know.
You can put
No,
buffers.
but I understand what Dave's,
Sure.
yeah. But I also understand what you were mentioning, too. You know, I think some is allowable.
I mean, when we got the residential approved behind Brick House, right? There's a small pocket park there.
Right.
There's wetland resources associated with that development. There's a small pocket park there. How's this any different other than the scale is much, much larger?
Right.
And this pocket park would be closer to the road. I'm assuming.
Yes.
But again, this is just conceptual at this point.
Are you just using the term pocket park, or do you have an idea of the size now?
No.
So you don't know the size?
No, and if the commission said that we couldn't do it, then it wouldn't be
I
possible.
don't know that there's a definition of pocket
No.
park anywhere.
There's not, but it's just a small park with a bench usually used for views, and it's not a grassed
I mean,
area.
the town,
Yeah.
Chelmsford may not have an actual definition, but
No.
there are definitions in other towns.
My thought is there's no parking provided in
Right.
general.
Right.
It's not a parking lot,
It's something
Park.
people can walk to.
Yeah,
local neighborhood.
yeah.
That's my own personal definition, but.
Yeah. All right, any other input? Well, I hope this helps a little bit.
No, it really does, and I appreciate your input and always appreciate your comments, and we'll see the commission again soon, I'm sure.
So are you gonna put more words in this section 11?
We'll go back to council with the local, well, we're going to go back to the selectmen on the 20th to talk about the development agreement and to answer.
Okay, so what we're saying is, we're not looking, I think what I heard the rest, we're not looking for any other restrictions on the site other than those imposed by Chapter 1, the 187, the wetland bylaw.
Sure. And you'd be looking for a local restriction and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like local better.
yeah. Yes, we will make sure that that's in there. And town council unfortunately couldn't be here this evening, but I'll make sure that David and I relay all the information back to you.
So I mean, this document is actually a proposed warrant article.
No, that's the proposed development agreement.
Okay.
So those are the things that we're agreeing to that are outside of the overlay.
So the town meeting won't actually be voting on this?
No, the selectmen will vote on the development agreement, and then the development agreement will actually be signed before we go to town meeting. That will be the parameters for which the overlay goes forward. And then the overlay itself still has to be approved at town meeting.
Thank you for that clarification.
Good. All
No,
right,
thank
well,
you very much for your time.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yes.
All right. Back to the agenda. All right, so now we have tree removal, 14 Levitt Lane. Carl, you want to give us a recap on that situation?
Sure. We were notified, a couple of members were notified by residents of Levitt Lane that another resident of Levitt Lane had trees removed, and there were a lot of people upset about this. A couple of us went out and looked at it. There was no notice of intent or an RDA, filed with us. My observation of it from what I saw was it looked like it could be within our 100-foot jurisdiction. So my point of asking to have this as part of our discussion, of course, it's not a hearing, but it's a discussion, is just what do we do in these kinds of cases where we believe the proper procedures weren't followed, and we should not just let it hang. We should have some kind of either a letter to the resident, find out who the contractor was, some kind of action to kind of try to deter this in the future in general, and not just let it slide. That's kind of where I'm
So, I mean, is it definite that there actually was work in the commission's jurisdiction in this case without approval?
We haven't been able to determine that. No one's been on the lot to measure. We've done some guesses based on where the wetland is on the GIS and where we think the trees were taken down. It's really close. My guess, just from looking at it, is it was within. There was something on the order of 25 good-sized trees taken down. Just my look at it was, I got to think a couple of them were within the 100-foot.
Was there a request made to do a site visit and make some kind of determination?
We've done nothing other than this all happened late October.
It was an after the
We
fact.
missed a meeting, it wasn't brought up, and in the meantime, this is the next meeting. So we haven't had any discussion in a meeting about this, any. Yeah, and so it's
I
just, I
suspect that-
didn't want it to let it slide off. It kind of was sliding away.
So, I mean, so we have a couple options. I mean, I'm thinking, one is we could always invite the homeowner to come in for a discussion with the commission and kind of approach it informally and find out kind of what's going on. And then we may then want to have a site visit. We could, that's one option. Dave, you want?
No, I mean, the work's all done. It's not like they stopped the work the minute we heard about it.
The work's done, but I mean, we may want to find out whether or not we had jurisdiction or not. That might be, if we didn't have jurisdiction, it would be nice to have be able to close it out and say, we actually didn't have jurisdiction. And in fact, there wasn't a violation. And on the other hand, if we found out that we did have jurisdiction, then I guess the question is do we have any, compensatory plantings? Is there any effort to try to have some sort of restoration? If there's, say, 2 or 3 trees were taken down that shouldn't have been taken down, should they be replaced in kind? They won't, someday they might grow up to that size, but, that's kind of one way we could proceed,
I'm curious, David, what your experience, you've got a lot of years in this space, what
Sure.
your suggestions might be.
Sure. Well, very often in this sort of situation, the chair, either the chair of the commission or the entire commission directs me to contact the property owner and ask them for permission to go out and do some kind of an initial assessment. I would say at least 9 times out of 10 that permission is granted. If it's not granted, then the commission has to file for an administrative search warrant. That's, you really don't want to try to avoid going there if you can. But yeah, it's generally that, I make a call to the property owners requesting permission to go out and just take a look. Assuming that there has been work in the commission's jurisdiction, there are, as Chris just mentioned, there are a couple of options. If there are only a few trees that have been taken down, or, hasn't gone far into the buffer zone, the commission can issue an after-the-fact approval, with, say, just with an RTA, a determination of applicability. If there's been really significant alteration, then the commission can require a restoration plan. Certainly been through that enough times. So those are some options. On a related issue, since I've been here, I've already gotten a few calls about people wanting to take down like 1 tree or 2 trees or 3 trees in the commission's jurisdiction in the buffer zone, that they've been told by their contractor, their arborist, that they need to contact the commission before the contractor will do any work. So I guess one question I have to the commission, do you have a policy? I mean, if someone wants to take down 1 tree in the buffer zone, do you require a filing? Do you allow the agent to make that authorization? How do you have a policy for handling that?
We haven't had anyone request 1 tree.
I think the agent can handle things like that.
We normally have no problem if someone wants to take trees down, that if they fell, they would hit the house, even if they're on conservation land. We usually allow that.
We had a policy, and I haven't seen it in a while, we probably should dig it out, but we had a policy for the agent. There were certain, minor activities.
Yeah, we have a minor activity.
Exactly, the
But I
minor
don't think
activity
trees, I don't
policy.
think trees are in it.
Yeah,
Can we
address this? Because there's been people here for a couple of hours.
Well, I know, but Beth, just procedurally, we have public hearings that are advertised hearings, we have public input, et cetera. This actually isn't a public hearing, it's a public meeting, so it's for the folks to be able to hear our discussion, primarily, see what we're doing, because we're in the public, but it's not a hearing per se. So we're gonna talk about it first amongst ourselves, and then I'll allow some public questions to it, but it's not like the formal hearings you've had. And I appreciate everybody's spending a long, lengthy night here with us, but we're talking it out amongst the commissioners and our agent first. And then we'll get to the public, because we see you guys out there.
So I would like some direction from the commission about, the few tree issues. I mean, let's just say for the sake of discussion here, maybe it's 10 trees or less, or 5 trees or less. Someone calls me, tells me, I want these trees to be taken down. What do I have to do?
You're not gonna get it tonight.
No, but I think it's something we're going to be talking about
Well,
again.
there's a lot of variables, being the location. Is it in the wetlands, is it in the water, is it right on the edge of the water?
Well, I can give you one a concrete example. I got a call on Tuesday. They have a tree that they measured, it's about 50 feet from the water. I think it's on a lake. One tree, a single tree, they want to take down. Their arborist has said, you got to talk to the commission first before they'll do the work. So how to proceed? That's my question. What?
In that one case, they come before us and they tell us what they're gonna do, and we allow them to do it or we don't, because we don't have a policy otherwise, and maybe we should have.
So you want an RDA filing? You want a
If they're
formal
gonna-
RDA?
Well, they got to at least come here.
Yeah. No, an RDA, right. I mean, one tree may very well be an RDA, because even though it's in our jurisdiction, it's not gonna cause any impact.
Yeah.
But they should do it formally, I think, until we have a policy.
Well, then I think the way to do that is an RDA.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Just to get back to this one for a minute. There are two, first of all, the wetlands are in Westford, guys. The wetlands are not in Chelmsford. And so I could understand perhaps where the contractor said, oh, it's Westford, I'm not gonna, they shouldn't, but I can understand that. If you go into the town GIS and you draw lines from the edge of wetlands to the edge of the property line of 14 Lovett, you got 74 feet, you got 94 feet, and you got 118 feet from the edge of wetlands to the edge of the property line. Now, I don't know if the tree cutting was all on the property line, because and this is why maybe Chris's suggestion is a good one, to have fresh eyes look at it. Because that distance of 118 feet, or between there, the lot line is pretty close to the house. So I don't know whether there were trees in the property or not. I don't even know if the contractor might not have taken some trees down that were in town property, which is behind 14 Lovett. You got 14 Lovett, you got town property, you got town line, you got Westford.
I think it's a private lot,
Yeah.
not a town lot.
Well, there is a lot behind.
Pumping station right there.
Yeah, there's a pumping station somewhere
No,
in there.
Behind the house, between the house and the wetland, there's another lot, it's a thin.
But anyhow, so I don't know where the trees were. The stumps are still there, I believe, so you can, have they all been taken out? I know they were gonna take them out, I didn't know whether they were taken out. If you draw a straight line along the back of the house, as opposed to from the edge of wetlands, and you do the measuring, then that's all outside of 100 feet. The Community Development Director, Mr. Belansky, indicated to us, all of us, in an email that he believed the tree cutting was outside of 100 feet. That's just another piece of information.
Yeah.
I think Chris's suggestion, that since Dave is new to town, have him go out and take a look and see if he can determine how much activity. Certainly, any contractor that does work within 100 feet of the wetland should notify the Conservation Commission in advance. I'm not surprised that he may not have known, or he may have played Mickey the Dunce. I don't know which, but that happens a lot too. I think we've got to elevate it so that people in town understand You just can't clear-cut trees down that are either in the wetlands or or within our jurisdiction without letting us know until we have have a policy.
I think the other thing just to state is that if it was outside the 100 feet, we don't have any jurisdiction.
That's right.
And there's not a lot within the Chelmsford tree bylaws that would prevent this.
There's nothing within the
homeowner.
Chelmsford tree.
Yeah, I
There
should
is no
say that.
Chelmsford bylaw.
Well, there's
It's only on public land.
All right.
This all started with a neighbor's concern, so there's got to be a process where the town, we were in between agents at the time, too. So
That's a good point.
if you were in the office, you would have gotten the call, and you could have followed up on it, and gone out there yourself and took a look. And I think that's,
Well, you can certainly still do that.
yeah.
I mean, there are neighbors
With
here.
permission.
Well, let's get some input from the neighbors. We appreciate people being here throughout a pretty long agenda. So please come up, identify yourself for the
Hi,
record.
Beth Logan, 36 Levitt Lane, and Mr. Chair, I just didn't want everybody to be stuck here during a long discussion about the general rule. I wanted to focus on this, because I know they've been waiting a long time. I'm going to give you some facts. The person moved in, and they came out, you can see the border stakes around the property, and I'm going to just say clear cut the entire property. They even requested taking, it's my understanding, trees from elsewhere, and the person tearing it down actually went to the neighbor, and the neighbor's like, that's my tree. It's all gone. So my concern is, let's not even talk about the beautification, the lack of trees, all that other crap. I have a short-term concern. We are about to hit winter where the ground is frozen, and winter is followed by spring. And when I say everything is gone, everything is gone. It is mud. And once spring hits, all that mud, good rainstorm, is going to flow right into the river barrier, because there's wetlands, and then there's the river border. And we all know GIS is good, but it's not perfect. So it's a little, I still think somebody should go out and figure out where the real wetlands are, because I'm not sure it's exactly what's written on GIS.
I agree.
There are places back there that there's been probably no human ever on, except for Sean, when he was a kid, he said, I used to go back there and couldn't go very far because it was wet, and he's in the drier part. So my request is that ASAP, they are required to put up some kind of barrier, because there is not and you say 25, I'd say there's a lot more than 25 trees taken down. There were probably 25 foot or bigger trees. But I think a barrier must be put up ASAP before the ground freezes, and then it'll give us time to figure out what's going on, because if you don't do that, by the time the ground freezes, you can't put anything up to protect that spring rain from just washing all that dirt right into the wetlands and the riverbank and causing all sorts of other issues. And I do want to point out that I have, on that very property, I have seen a turtle nest, and right in front of that property, when I was a commissioner, I rescued spotted salamanders from the road who were trying to get over to the wetlands. So I don't know how far, I'll be honest, you probably know, I don't know how far spotted salamanders go, but I was had to tie my dog to a tree so I could pick the little salamanders up and carry them across the street, because they were in the middle of the road, headed towards the wetlands. So my request, and I don't know how fast you could do it, or even if you're willing to do it, but at a minimum, I would like to see something to prevent all that mud from flowing back there.
So if there's a river back there, could this be in the riverfront area? I mean, that's 200 feet.
Her
Obviously.
property is in the riverfront area according to the GIS.
So, I mean, there could potentially be more than just a 100-foot buffer zone.
And the,
The stream's flowing all year round?
I don't go back there. I mean.
Well, I can check the USGS maps.
Yeah, we have other neighbors, and actually, I know you can get the The town sewage pump is slightly is on the non-wetland side. And then the next neighbor is the Quigleys, and I'm sure they would let you back there on their property. On the other side, there's the neighbor, so I'll let them speak for themselves.
Yeah, you can come
Thank
back on
you.
our side, too. Thanks, Beth. Yeah, come on forward, please.
Good evening. My name's Gary Spellacy. I live at 15 Lovin Lane. So I've been observing this process. I had no awareness of what the commission's regulations are. I listened to neighbors and everyone giving me their slant on what was happening. I didn't know you illuminated a little bit earlier with the footage you had mentioned. We're just here, my wife and I are here just to find out what's happening. This is a point of information. We are adjacent, we observed it all, and I'm just trying to get some clarity because I've heard so many divergent opinions. We've been in town for our whole life. I want to make the point that we had class right here in junior high. So maybe we've been in this building a lot longer than most of you people. So if you have any questions. So I will just go back and listen, and I appreciate you giving us information.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next, please.
How y'all are? I'm Bob Friesner, 12 Lovett Lane, next door. The water comes up to approximately, I would say, 50 feet from the corner of the lady house who cut down the trees and our lot, because she did the survey. So the stake is right there, and I've got 100-foot measuring tape if you want to come and use it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Someone else? All right, no one else now. Okay.
Sounds like a site visit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're
I
gonna.
would send David out and report back to us.
I think that we send David out, conduct an investigation.
I mean, some of us, Billy's been there, I've been there.
I went
Carl's
by.
been there.
What was it when it-
Just on
they
the
were
street,
doing
though,
it, yeah.
just from the street.
Well, I mean, you can go out at the site. We can go out on any properties, like neighbors that give us permission to go out on the site. That's perfectly fine. We can go out and take pictures as well. That's all perfectly fine. The property, the private owner that owns the property right now, we could not go on their property without either, unless we have their permission, or we would need a search warrant, basically. But within that parameters, we can gather a lot of information. I'll have David look into it.
Yeah, I will contact them and request permission to go out and do a site visit, a site inspection. And hopefully they'll
Exactly.
grant me.
And so we can continue this matter to our next meeting, which is on the 21st. And, we're a, public meeting process.
Beth made a good point, and
What's
you
that?
look at the topography on this area. Across Lovett Lane, it goes up to 200 feet, and then this property is between 160 and 170. So you got 30 to 40-foot drop from the peak, and that may not even be the peak, but, and if that lot is not stabilized, and I understood from talking to the contractor that the homeowner's intent is just to reseed it. Well, obviously, I don't think that's been done. And if it's not stabilized, you could get significant runoff coming from the other side of Lovett Lane that would go through this property and go into the wetlands, which are in Westford. Incidentally, if you look at the maps, you might ask yourself, why did Westford allow the granite quarry to store stuff right up on the edge of the wetlands? But that's another story for another day.
Yeah. It was done 100 years ago.
Grandfather.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so we good with that plan?
Chris, thanks for having this discussion.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. And so we'll see, hopefully, many of you folks will see you at our next meeting on the 21st. And again, if you have questions during the week, Mr. Coons is our agent. He started out part-time, a couple days a week, but starting, next week or so?
Monday, yes.
On Monday, he's going to be
Full-time.
full-time in the office. So he's here to help serve all of us. So thanks for coming out
We
tonight.
usually like to call around midnight, just as a.
Midnight.
You can leave a voicemail.
Well, thank you for the warning.
Thank you.
And good night. Drive safely.
Thank you.
Do you need The property owners?
Well, if you have, like a phone number,
Yeah, I'll bring your phone number.
that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Phone numbers, names, contact information will help Mr. Coons out.
Give you a hard time.
You have pencil and paper somewhere?
You can use my pen if you want.
Great.
Used to that.
I need paper too.
Oh,
very
here we
good.
go. See, it's a team effort.
So much stuff. Great, thank you.
All right. So next on tonight's agenda is continuing business, land management. We've got a Warren Poll reservation update, which I think we had a pretty good,
Management issues at Crooked Spring?
oh, shoot, I missed that. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it kind of rolls together with the land management.
Issues at Crooked Springs, which kind of rolls under land management issues as well. But maybe we can jump to that quickly. I've gotten some reports, basically, that there's been some problems out in the parking lot at Crooked Springs, that there's been, some possible illicit drug activities. There's been syringes found in the parking lot. There's a concern about kind of what's going on in the parking lot. And so it's, I think, our responsibility really, overseeing all of our reservations, I think, from my perspective, it would be good if we can contact the Chelmsford Police, our liaison there, make sure that maybe the cruisers swing through a little more often. I mean, the parking lot's easy to get to for a police cruiser to just pull in there and kind of take a look around. But, I mean, we want to make sure it's safe for everybody. That would be my thoughts on it. Others have any thoughts?
So Phil has posted on Facebook, I haven't spoken with him about this, but I know he's posted on Facebook about this issue, Phil Stanway from the Cost Group.
Yeah.
And he is looking at the possibility of putting cameras in there, and I know there are cameras at a few other, I think Hart Pond and, I don't know, one or two others, maybe up in North Chelmsford. At Varney. I'm not sure, but there's a couple of other places. I'm not sure if he's following through on that.
I think he should be procedurally come to us and
Yeah.
get our permission to
And
do it.
we shouldn't hear about it by reading Facebook.
So,
Which would be the procedure.
So-
I think we'd support it, but,
so I, along with some other issues that we'll talk about here, I have a agenda item to connect with Phil, and a
Excellent.
personal agenda item to connect with Phil and kind of get up to date on some of these issues. So, I think the last I saw was it got cleaned up, and I think he did talk with at least some people in the parking lot, but,
This is
I will-
not the first time, nor is it the first time that COS has cleaned it up. Remember,
that
their
parking
job
lot,
is,
yeah.
that's part of their job under the memorandum of understanding. They do clean up. It's a tragedy that people are drugging up in the parking lot.
Yeah.
But it has to be cleaned up, and COS has been pretty good historically at cleaning it up. It's a little dangerous. They know what they're doing. They know how to handle needles. There's also a lot of drinking that goes on in that parking lot as well, and the police have been notified in the past and have added it to their patrol. So that, I mean, this is not, all of a sudden it becomes new because new people are reading about it. You're absolutely right, Chris. It is our responsibility at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, and Carl said he's gonna talk to Phil, that's a good thing.
And it might be good for our agent to find the police liaison to just touch base with as well. I don't know who that, Dave, was there someone you dealt?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Right, right. But, so that's that item, yeah. Please proceed with the, kind of the rest of your land management.
So, we've already covered the Warren poll, other than, the other thing is, I am still working, I gotta connect with David about if he got any answer on the baseline documentation report.
I haven't had a chance to ask yet.
Okay. I think what I'm gonna do is send an email to the young lady at Land Stewardship and say that we're good to go, but I would expect that we would issue a purchase order to them. I'm quite sure we have the funding. I have no doubt we have the funding. It's more a matter of, I know whether or not the authorization as a conservation.
Did you, any luck in getting the delegation of signing authority information, I know my corporation, we have this very lengthy delegation of signing authority. I just saw, it was reissued recently in my place.
I did have a conversation with Evan about that. I think it comes down to basically how legal does the commission want to be. I gather this has been done a little bit informally in town up to now. I always think it's best to make sure you're legal,
Yep.
in which case I don't think any members of the commission actually do have that authority.
Okay.
But I've also been told, the town manager will sign the proposal, no problem. And that, yes, there is funding available. So.
What was it, like $1,900 or something?
Yes.
1,900,
All right,
yeah.
so let's have a motion at a minimum to approve the spending of up to $1,900 for this item.
It's a little superfluous because we've approved this whole program already.
Well,
but
we already,
that's
did
fine.
we approve the funds already?
No, but it's within the basket.
Well, yeah, Evan thought that actually the town meeting approval for the acquisition included
Yes,
money for
exactly.
these kinds of
There's
expenses.
50 grand for
Yeah, exactly.
soft
We've
legal
already,
costs.
fine.
in principle,
That will
we've
go
approved
against that.
everything.
Fine.
So all I need is
So
an
town
account.
manager is the official person assigned to the thing. All right.
So that's that. So the Cranberry Bog, the dam, we've had some conversation as well about the dam. Dave and I walked out there last week. Or was it this week? I don't know. We went out to the dam, and our understanding is that we had a town meeting article in 2020, spring town meeting, to use $25,000 for repair, for analysis and a repair of the dam. We had trees on the dam. That was done. We've spent $22,750 out of the $25,000. That includes the initial evaluation by Whitman and Bingham, the wetland permitting by Oxbow, and the tree removal by Marquee Tree. And that came up to like 22.5 or 22 something. But it left us with about whatever we had as our contingency fee left over. What it turns out is that through the accounting practices and the fact that this was 2020 year and the work was completed in the 21 fiscal year, we actually have 8,000 something, 8,500 I think, left over in this article amount of money. And so we're trying to figure out if we can actually use that, because there could be some more work to be done on the dam. Right now, there are stumps. So I think the question to us on the commission is, do we want to leave the dam top the way it is, which has some roots and some stumps on it? Which is actually, to be honest, that's consistent with the whole trail system. There are roots, trees and stumps in the whole trail system. Or do we want to work towards getting the dam top surface completely clear? There is vegetation on the side of the dam, on either side. In my opinion, the cost group can clear that. It's fairly easy to clear. We've done that in many other places. I've been on teams to do that. I don't see that vegetation as being a big deal. I think the real question is to what extent do we want to go on the dam? I'm not saying we have to have an answer tonight, but that's kind of the question, because I don't see anything here urgent. There's nothing, it looks to me, my unprofessional inspection of it says this dam's in much better shape with the trees being taken down. We did ask Brian Melissi, who was the engineer from Whitman Bingham, who did this report, specifically about removing the stumps, and he said the work that needed to be done was remove the trees, not the stumps.
Okay.
He said leaving the stumps would be fine. You could take them down if you want to the surface level, but leaving them there probably actually, over time as they rot and erode, fill in the gaps with stuff. So that's
I'm okay
really
with
where
that
we're at.
recommendation, to be honest.
I've never seen such fast and loose accounting in my life.
Well,
No, it is. We cost overran our operating budget by $4 or $5 grand
Yeah.
because the town accountant paid the bills against our operating account, because the 25 grand from the warrant had not been approved by town meeting later. So the project money was spent, and frankly, we don't get to see our spending.
Oh, and that's an issue I've got. now that we have an
And I
issue,
would
I'll
not
talk
have,
about
I'm sure that, but to just easily cost overrun a line item of expense in your budget to get something done is not good business practice, I'm sorry.
it. And David, you've got a lot of years as CFOs in big companies. I agree with you. You know your finances.
But anyhow, the real point, the work on the dam is done the way we contemplated it. It will need continuing maintenance. Carl's got some ideas, some other stuff that should be done on the dam, which we should consider, and just bring it we'll bring it before you guys and say, look, we need whatever it is, and we'll find the money to do it. Either we'll do another warrant article, we'll go to CPC, or we'll ask for it in our operating budget.
Wasn't there discussions that we didn't want the stumps to be cut down?
Yes.
Because it's concerned
Yes.
with, people driving and stuff like that.
But there are some people that would like all of the conservation reservations to be theme parks, which they're not.
Bruce, the rail trail, smooth, so. Okay, so we'll leave that as it is. The only other thing at the bog is that there are 4 to 6 trees on the trail leading in that could easily be taken down, not necessarily removed, but knocked down because they're, we really, they're at risk of falling down onto the trail. The chances of hitting somebody are pretty slim, but they're right next to the trail and they're big. And we did look at them this past spring, the cost team, we actually were out there with chainsaws to do it, and I said, no, we're not doing these are too big, these are not in our league. So we should look at getting that done. I understood Phil to say he would talk to DPW, but I don't think that's happened, and so I've got that on my list to talk to Phil about. That we should perhaps go to DPW to get that done. The last thing is, Deep Brook, I shared that we've had a couple of postings on the kiosks that are not being asked about, and I'm chasing down the person who did that, trying to discuss with them. I haven't removed the posting, but that was at the Deep Brook site.
I think you should.
I might, but I'm giving her a chance to get back to me.
They're political statements.
Yeah.
They're not conservation statements.
And then the condition of the Oak Hill kiosk is not very good. I stopped there, and it was broken and needs some repair. It's not a big deal, but it just needs some repair. And then the last thing is just the Thanksgiving grounds walk on the day before Thanksgiving that Costs did. I didn't make it. I meant to, and I didn't get there. It was a huge turnout. There was a lot of people in the pictures. It was a beautiful day.
Good.
Phil and the team did a great job organizing that event. It was a lot of good comments, so that's it.
But here again, Cost did not ask the chair's permission to have the event. There's a breakdown in communication, which Carl is going to try to address.
Connect with Phil.
And it needs to be addressed.
Right.
That's it.
Since it's late, next meeting, we need to agree on what the name for Warren Pole is, because we're going to have to order the granite sign pretty soon.
All right, sir, you've been patient here all evening.
Oh.
Waiting to the end of the night?
My name's Max Jordan, 50 Hall Road. Carl, good to see
Hey,
you.
Max.
I came to hear the update on Warren Pole, and it was interesting. I appreciate what you said tonight. I understand there may be beaver moving in, these large rodents that spread Giardia. I hope you engage in a plan to take care of that, because they're not nice animals, and I don't think the water department wants their wells anywhere near beaver, so thank you.
Thanks for the update. David, you much experience with beavers in your previous jobs?
Yes.
Yes. The way you say that, I know you've had
a little bit too much.
real experience doing it, yeah. But, yeah, they can get out of control rapidly if you don't stay on top of it.
They are rodents.
Well, and you certainly don't want them impacting public water.
They're also
supply.
wildlife.
Yep.
So I know it's late. I just did have a couple of other questions.
Yes.
Policy. So it shouldn't take long. So I reviewed the bylaw regarding, minor activities in the buffer zone. Saw that for sheds below a certain size, more than 50 feet away from the wetlands, no filing is required. What about, let's just say for the sake of discussion, that tonight's RDA for the addition to the house and the deck, instead of being on big feet, was these helical piles, which are screwed into the ground, which have, produced virtually no soil disturbance. Would the commission, in that case, would the commission still want a filing?
I think we would at this point.
Yeah, because we might be dealing with some roof runoff or
Right.
other different
Right,
issues.
right. Oh, okay, well, that's what I figured, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to, double check on that. Because I do, certainly in other towns I've worked in, I certainly from time to time do get calls. Well, we're using the helical piles, which don't produce any soil disturbance. And, some of the commissions have said, well, then no, they don't have to file.
It's still a structure in the wetland, in the buffer area.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So within 50 feet, anyway, definitely do a filing.
Yep,
Okay,
RDA.
okay, thank you.
Good. Just one quick thing, while it's fresh in my mind. So to Dave's point, I have no idea what our budget is, honestly. If you can get a handle on what's going on with finances.
It's been that's been one of the things on my list to check into, because I gather that the commission has a number of accounts
Yeah.
where there are potential sources of funding. Evan mentioned another one to me today that I guess the CPA or the CPC has approved 50 grand that the commission can use with approval by the committee. There's also a way of doing it by setting up a trust fund, and doing a transfer where the commission doesn't have to get anyone's approval. So maybe for
Our
the future.
representative on CPC is Mr. Bishop.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know, Carl.
Please.
We
For a
never
while.
meet, though.
Never meet.
Every
Only
time
when
we
there's
put a-
something to vote on, that's
Every
it.
time we put a conservation commissioner on the CPC, they quit.
There has been that pattern.
I'm not sure why we didn't put John on that.
That's right, he's the
It's always the new one that gets.
Right.
I was on it. Hey, I did my time.
Well, I'll definitely be in touch, Carl,
Okay.
to talk about it.
But to your point, and Chris, for some reason, they have chosen not to regularly give the chair the status of budget and actuals.
I've never
And
seen
it's-
anything.
And by my mind, it's a conscious decision. For 30 years, they didn't do it,
I
so it
know.
can't be subconscious.
Well, I did, today, as a matter of fact, I did ask for regular budget reports on the
Good.
wetland filing fee account.
Good, yeah.
So we'll
You should
get
know
that.
that there is an unwritten policy that 50% of those funds go to the general fund of the town, and 50% go to the Conservation Commission.
Well, that's not allowed.
Well, we've done it for like 40
I
years.
like that.
Well, it's wrong, that,
Then you can speak with the town manager.
Massachusetts law says that money can only be used for
I
administration.
understand, but we don't move the money
I
around.
like him.
I know.
I think the other 50% goes towards coconut shrimp.
Well,
That, in fact, is what they do.
Really?
Yes.
Welcome to Chelmsford.
I'm surprised someone hasn't really complained about that, because
Well, we haven't.
that's a pretty serious
We
violation.
haven't.
Okay.
I think on an agenda where we don't have a lot of things to discuss, we should set some time aside and kind
Well,
of give them an idea.
He's gonna find issues that he
Yeah.
needs clarification.
Also,
Absolutely.
similar to questions on what you could bring, what you should be bringing to us, what you can make the call on your own, that type of thing, and have some guidelines.
That would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, then you're not flying.
Because I don't want to send a memo that the commission hasn't seen and then
Yeah.
I get in trouble for.
We won't get in trouble.
Do we sign the certificate of compliance?
No, that's this right here. So you don't even have to vote on it. That's a re-sign, a reissue.
Re-sign, okay. So
of,
we have to re-sign this now. And we have minutes in front of us for November 16th. Dave, did your comments get into this stuff?
I didn't look. Did you put my comment?
I have the version with your comments, and
Okay.
so, I don't know what you guys have, but I have your comments.
All right.
Honestly, very reasonable.
I would
Always
approve Dave's, I
resolved.
saw Dave's comments, and
I wasn't here, so I
I'm
don't
good
care.
with it.
Thanks, Dave. All right.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes with the modifications that Dave made.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Carl, seconded by Bill. All those in favor, aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. All right.
Abstain.
And one abstention by Mr. Timore. All right, we have the certificate of compliance going down for signatures here. All right, so I think we've covered, somewhat out of order at times. Thanks for keeping me on the agenda path. I kept
Oh, you did great, Chris.
jumping out in front on occasion.
So just as a point of interest, David, this was extraordinarily unusual to have a crowd like that. Really? Yeah, we're usually like 3 people in.
Really? I haven't seen a crowd like that in a long time.
What about the lateness of the meeting? Is this?
That's
Very-
very late, this is
At least an
unusual.
hour late.
We definitely allow it.
An hour late.
So if we have a motion to adjourn,
Oh, yeah,
please.
I'll move.
Moved by Dave, seconded
Second.
by Carl. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those in favor, unanimous. Chelmsford Television, we are now off the program.